Chapter 451. In the northwest of the ancestral state, there were endless mountains. Zhejiang County was an important barrier. It was guarded by a large number of troops, closely monitoring every move of the Yao nation. Although there were many troops, the security of Zhejiang County was not good. The existence of the garrison was to defend against external enemies and would not easily interfere with local politics. Zhejiang County was bordered by the Yao Kingdom, and the county was filled with demons and bandits. The common people lived in groups, and when they went out, they often traveled in groups. Zhejiang County, one of the 9 counties. A woman in white slowly walked on the mountain path. The woman was extremely beautiful. Her figure was graceful, and her face was beautiful. She was naturally charming. When the woodcutter saw her, he could not take his eyes off her. He almost took a wrong step and stepped into a cliff. After the shock, he panted and said to his companion, "Such a beautiful girl dares to go out alone." In the past few months, at least 8, if not 10, women have mysteriously disappeared around here. His companion disagreed and said, "A beauty who dares to go out alone these days can't be an ordinary person. She might be an immortal or a demon. Look at how beautiful she is. She's like a fox spirit. How can a person be so beautiful?" On the mountain path, the beautiful woman continued to walk. When she passed by a dense forest, a figure suddenly walked out of the forest. It was a young man in blue. He had the cultivation of spirit condensation. He looked at the woman on the mountain path with a fiery gaze and praised, "What a beautiful woman! Such a beautiful woman, even if she was not a rare demon, could be sold for a very good price." After all, although female demons were rarer, not everyone liked demon furnaces. The value of such a beauty was definitely not inferior to any female demons. Looking at the woman on the mountain path, he felt a fire in his heart. He slowly walked towards her. A moment later, the beautiful woman continued to walk. The unconscious young man in blue was hung on a tree. His cultivation had been destroyed. When she was about to reach the foot of the mountain, the woman touched a jade bracelet on her hand. Several figures appeared out of thin air. If everyone swaggered through the air, it would be too eye-catching. Whether it was the military or the local government, it would not be beneficial to the plan. Li Mu, Hu Jiao, and the others hid in Phantom Princess's storage space for a while. For this operation, each of them had a flask heaven space. Although the area was not large, the 7 of them combined were not small. It was enough to accommodate everyone in the Wu family's underground palace. Li Mu had a bigger space, but if he revealed it, his identity would be exposed. So, he could only go back to the Thousand Fox country and let Phantom Princess solve the problem of space herself. Now that he had comprehended the heavenly book of the Fox clan, it was time for him to leave. This time, with Fantasy Princess and the others by his side, Li Mu would not be able to unleash his full potential. After this mission was over, he would try to find an opportunity to escape. He put away these thoughts and said to Huanji and the others, "Lord Huanji, I'll have to trouble you." Phantom Princess nodded and walked into the forest with Hu Lu. When they came out, their hair was tied up and they had changed into men's clothes. They looked very handsome and charming. The beauty of the people from Meizong's sect was not differentiated by gender. No matter if it was a man dressed as a woman or a woman dressed as a man, they were all stunning beauties. Under Li Mu's lead, the group came to the Wu family. It looked like an ordinary manor, but there was actually a powerful formation outside. Unless there was a 6th realm cultivator, it would be very difficult to break in from the outside. Li Mu had changed his appearance. Like Wu Liang, he was also a follower of the Zhejiang Commandery King. He was now lying in the flask heaven space that Phantom Princess gave to Li Mu. His vital spirit and body were imprisoned. A guard of the Wu family came up and said respectfully, "Welcome, Lord Qin. Master is in seclusion and can't receive you personally. Please don't blame him." Li Mu said, "I've brought a few friends to play. You can make the arrangements. I won't disturb Brother Wu." The guard said, "Everyone, please follow me." He held the token and led them through several checkpoints. They came to an empty space in the backyard. He formed a seal with his hands and his lips trembled. A large hole opened in the ground. It was pitch black inside, and they could not see anything. The guards stood at the entrance of the hole and said, "Please go in. Someone will receive you below." Hu Jio was about to jump down when Phantom Princess suddenly grabbed her collar. Li Mu was also suspicious. He said in a low voice, "Something's wrong." The entire Wu family was eerily quiet. Li Mu and the others had not seen anyone since they came in. It was not like this when Li Mu came last time. The moment Phantom Princess stopped Hu Jio, the guard of the Wu family was about to retreat. Li Mu pointed at the back of his neck and sealed his cultivation. Phantom Princess had already sensed that something was wrong. She immediately said, "Retreat." But it was too late. The light of the formation flashed in the sky above the Wu family. A translucent shield instantly solidified. The 7 of them were trapped inside the shield. Outside the shield, a dense crowd of people began to gather. An ambush. We've fallen into a trap. Inside the formation, everyone spoke with an ugly expression. When Hu Lu and the others came to their senses, they immediately looked at Li Mu with suspicion and hostility in their eyes. From the beginning, he was the one who provided the information and planned this. If there was a traitor among them, he was the most suspicious. Hu Jio understood their expressions. She said with a dark face, "What do you mean? Are you suspecting Little Snake?" Hu Lu and Li Mu pulled away and said, "He is indeed the most suspicious. Shouldn't we suspect him?" Hu Jio said decisively, "It can't be Little Snake. I believe him." While the 2 demons were arguing, Phantom Princess did not panic. She said in a low voice, "Now is not the time to talk about this. Let's work together to break the formation." Her words were very useful. They all took out their weapons and attacked the formation above them. Only Li Mu did not move. He knew that their attacks were useless. The underground palace of the Wu family was the money tree of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince. He had invested a lot in the protective formation here. Even a 6th realm cultivator would need some time to break this formation. If Phantom Princess brought the cultivators of the Meizong and Mirage sects, they might be able to break it. However, she had gathered them in an emergency and did not have enough manpower. They could not even shake this formation. Phantom Princess formed a seal with her hands. A huge 6-tailed fox shadow appeared behind her. She used the fox shadow to unleash her strongest attack. However, it only made the formation shake a little. The formation was still stable. At this moment, Hu Jio realized that Li Mu did not move. She said angrily, "Why are you still standing there?" Li Mu shook his head and said, "It's useless. I searched the soul of the owner of this place. Even a 6th realm cultivator would need more than 2 hours to break this formation. If we continue like this, we'll just be wasting our magic power." Phantom Princess could unleash a 6th realm attack. However, she only had the power for 1 attack. It was far from enough to break the formation. She landed and gritted her teeth. There are still spies in the Meizong sect. Outside the array, a young man crossed his arms and looked down at them from above. He said indifferently, "You guys really dared to come?" Hu Lu raised her head and asked coldly, "How did you know?" The young man smiled and said, "We're going to die. What's the use of knowing this?" Hu Lu said coldly, "The Lord of Heaven's daughter is here. If you dare to hurt her, the Lord of Heaven will not let you go." The young man sneered and said, "The Lord of Heaven's illusion is so scary. Then let him come. Let's see who will not let who go." The Duke of Zhejiang obviously knew Phantom Princess's identity. Li Mu ruled out the possibility that they discovered something was wrong and set up an ambush in advance. The imperial court did have spies in the Meizong sect. However, they did not have access to such confidential information. The only possibility was that the higher-ups of the Meizong sect leaked the information to the Duke of Zhejiang. Did the Duke of Zhejiang also have spies in the higher-ups of the Meizong sect? Right now, spies were not the most important thing. The Duke of Zhejiang gave the order. Outside the formation, countless cultivators activated the formation at the same time. A sky full of spells attacked them. Although there were no 6th realm cultivators outside the formation, they were all 4th realm and 5th realm cultivators. There were too many of them. Their combined attacks were very close to 6th realm attacks. Even Dongxian cultivators would be in a difficult situation if they were trapped in the formation. Phantom Princess threw out an ancient turtle shell. The turtle shell emitted a faint fluorescent light and covered them. However, the light on the turtle shell was slowly dimming under the intensive attacks. Hu Lu said with a trembling voice, "Lord Phantom Princess, this Dharma treasure will not last long." As the turtle shell dimmed, Phantom Princess's face gradually turned pale. She still had a few powerful Dharma treasures. However, they could only last for a while. The attacks outside the formation would eventually land on them. Everyone would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed in body and soul. At this moment, no one doubted Li Mu. It was obvious that the people outside wanted to kill them all, not leaving a single one alive. Which spy would die with them? Hu Jiao sat on the ground. She gritted her teeth and said, "If we can escape, I will definitely catch that damned spy. I will tear him into pieces and burn his bones to ashes." Hu Lu sat beside her dejectedly. She said, "Let's talk about it after we escape. What's the use of saying this now? I'm still a virgin. I haven't even tasted a man." Phantom Princess was silent. After the undercover incident last time, she had been more careful. Not many people knew about this, but even so, they had still been ambushed. The light on the turtle shell was very dim. Hu Jiao looked up. After a moment of silence, she slowly stood up and said, "If the 6 of us explode our demon souls and primordial spirits, even if we can't break the formation, we can weaken it to the greatest extent. It will be enough for Lord Phantom Princess to break the formation. As long as the formation is broken, Lord Phantom Princess will have hope of escaping." The demons did not speak. Their faces were filled with determination. Phantom Princess said firmly, "No." This was the only time Hu Jiao did not go along with Phantom Princess. She said firmly, "Lord Phantom Princess, we have no other choice. Only if you escape can you avenge us and save the people here. We still have a choice." A voice suddenly sounded. Everyone's eyes immediately looked behind Phantom Princess. Li Mu slowly said, "I just searched through the memories of the owner of this place and found that this formation has a weak point. If Lord Illusion Princess uses the same level of attack as before to attack the weak point, there might be a chance of breaking the formation." Hu Lu shook her head and said, "Even if we break the formation, there are so many strong enemies outside. We can't escape." Li Mu continued, "I learned a skill from the Heavenly Book. Later, other than Lord Phantom Princess, all of you, transfer your mana to me. I will use your mana to cast this skill. It should be able to stop them for a while. During this time, Lord Phantom Princess will be able to escape with you." Hu Jiao said in surprise, "Really?" Li Mu nodded and said, "It's all thanks to Lord Phantom Princess that I learned the Heavenly Book 2 days ago. Otherwise, all of us would have died here today." Phantom Princess looked into Li Mu's eyes and asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" Li Mu said embarrassedly, "I wanted to tell Lord Phantom Princess at the right time to give Lord Phantom Princess a surprise. I didn't expect to use it so soon." Hu Jiao seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Then what about you?" Li Mu patted her shoulder and said, "Don't worry. I also learned a blood escape skill from the Heavenly Book. This skill can increase my speed greatly. Those below the 6th level won't be able to catch up with me. After buying enough time for all of you, I will use the blood escape skill to escape. Although after using it, my vitality will be greatly damaged and my cultivation will regress, but at this critical moment, I can't care so much." Hu Lu looked at Li Mu and seemed to have understood something. Phantom Princess felt that something was wrong. She wanted to ask more, but Hu Lu looked at the dim turtle shell and said, "Lord Phantom Princess, there's no time. Prepare to attack the weak point of this formation. We will transfer our spiritual power to him, outside the formation." The Duke of Jiujiang looked at the turtle shell that was about to disappear and urged, "Hurry up, this thing can't hold on for much longer." The cultivators were about to increase their attacks when a strong wave of spiritual power came from under the turtle shell. A long whip of spiritual power pierced through the turtle shell and hit a certain part of the formation. The Duke of Jiujiang smiled in disdain. "A trapped beast attack?" Then he opened his eyes slightly. He seemed to have seen something wrong. He saw a small shadow of a bell. Although it was just a flash, he did see it. Boom. After being hit by the long whip, the formation that had always been very stable let out a deafening boom. A gap actually appeared. Although the gap was quickly mended, there was still a ray of white light that flew out of the formation and into the distance. The Duke of Zhejiang's expression changed and he immediately said, "Chase after it." In fact, there was no need for him to give the order. The moment the white light flew out, the cultivators outside the formation had already chased after it. Bang! The cultivator who was flying at the front suddenly flew back. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him. That figure was only at the 4th level at first, but his aura began to climb at this moment. It climbed to the early stage, the middle stage, the late stage, until it reached the peak of the 4th level. At some point, it reached the 5th level. However, this was not the end. In just a few breaths, his aura climbed to the peak of the 5th level. This scene scared all the cultivators present. They did not dare to act rashly. If this person took one more step, he would reach the 6th level and enter the ranks of the strongest cultivators on the continent. At that time, who would be able to stop him? Fortunately, his aura did not change after reaching the peak of the 5th level. Li Mu quietly put away the Dao Bell and secretly adjusted the position of the Fulu on his arm. The flaw in the formation was fake. In fact, when Phantom Princess attacked with her full strength, he made the Dao Bell become undetectable and lightly hit it. The Dao spell was also fake. The reason his aura climbed was because he used the Fulu. The blood escape was also fake. It was just an excuse he used to deceive Phantom Princess. Although he didn't expect this undercover incident, it was also an opportunity for him to escape. Seeing that the person's aura no longer climbed, the Duke of Zhejiang let out a sigh of relief. He pointed at the Creation Realm cultivators and said, "You guys, kill him. The rest of you, chase after him." As soon as he finished speaking, a few people rushed in the direction Phantom Princess disappeared. However, in the next moment, a figure blocked their path. He floated in the air and said in a low voice, "Those who cross this place will die." The Duke of Zhejiang was extremely angry. He shouted, "Kill him! Kill him now!" Countless figures swarmed forward. Behind them, under the night sky, Phantom Princess ignored the overdraft of her dermic powers and pushed her speed to the limit. Even though they were so far away, she could still feel the rapidly rising aura behind her. It seemed that the little snake did not lie to her. He really did comprehend a powerful Dao spell from the heavenly book. She continued to squeeze out her dermic powers and increased her speed. Hu Jiao and the others were already in the sky flask. She had to use her fastest speed to fly into the 100,000 mountains. Only then would she not let down the opportunity the little snake had risked his life to create for them. In the sky above the Wu Manor, Li Mu had killed countless people. He looked back in the direction Phantom Princess had disappeared and said softly, "Lord Phantom Princess, farewell forever." He slowly turned back. Suddenly, a strong white light emitted from his body. In the sky above the Wu Manor, the cultivators were scared out of their wits. "Oh no, he's going to self-destruct. Retreat. Damn it, don't block me." A destructive wave of spiritual power swept out in all directions with that figure as the center. The Wu Manor had been razed to the ground. Everyone quickly scattered, but they were still affected and were sent flying. They all spat out blood, their auras weakened, and their divine souls dimmed. The Zhejiang commandery prince hid behind a few guards. He waited until the spiritual power wave of the self-destruction dissipated before he walked out. He looked up and saw that the white figure had already disappeared. He coughed a few times. His face was pale as he said angrily, "That lunatic." 100,000 mountains. In the Yao Nation, Phantom Princess landed on a mountain. Her body swayed and she almost fell down. She held onto a tree and let Hu Jiao and the others out. Then she threw a few spiritual jades to them and sat down cross-legged. She said, "Those people won't dare to chase us anymore. You guys hurry up and recover your dermic powers. We'll wait here for the little snake to come back." Hu Jiao looked like she had survived a disaster. She laughed and said, I knew that the little snake is more reliable at times like this. Lord Phantom Princess, when he comes back, you must reward him. Hu Lu's expression was complicated. After a long time, she raised her head and said, I'm afraid that the little snake won't be able to come back. Hu Jiao glared at her and said unhappily, Sister Lu, what are you saying? The little snake just saved all of us. How can you curse him like this? Hurry up and spit on him, Hu Lu said in a low voice. Don't you understand? There's no blood escape. He can only use our dermic powers to temporarily increase his cultivation and self-destruct his divine soul to buy time for Lord Phantom Princess. The little snake won't be able to come back. Hu Jiao was stunned for a moment. Then, she said angrily, what are you talking about? That's impossible. As soon as she said that, a strong wave of spiritual power came from far away. Even if they were standing dozens of miles away, they could still faintly feel it. Plop. Hu Jiao's body went soft and she knelt on the ground. Crack. The spiritual jade in Phantom Princess's hand was crushed by her. Blood slowly flowed through the gaps between her fingers. Chapter 452. Zhejiang County, Xinjiang County. In a pharmacy in the county. The doctor stroked his long beard and withdrew his hand from a man's pulse. He asked, when did this symptom appear? The man said with a bitter face, last night, I was making love with my wife. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside. It shook my house so much that it almost collapsed. At that time, I was moaning. Then this morning I couldn't get up. The doctor nodded and comforted him. It's okay. It's normal to have such symptoms when you're frightened. I'll give you a prescription. You'll be fine after taking it for a few days. The man said gratefully, thank you, doctor. Thank you. It's my pleasure. The doctor raised his pen and said, just follow this prescription to get the medicine. 100-year-old ginseng, 1 deer antler, a pair of bear paws, and half a kilogram of caterpillar fungus. Take it for a few days and you'll be fine. After the man got the medicine and left, the shopkeeper of the pharmacy counted the silver and said, I don't know what happened last night. I was sleeping soundly when there was a loud noise outside. I was so scared that I fell under the bed. I thought the earth dragon had turned over, but it just shook. On the street, the people were also discussing this matter. The loud noise last night had awakened all the people in the city. Even now, most of the people did not know what had happened. It was not until the Xinjiang County government posted a notice to calm the people that the people knew the ins and outs of the matter. The notice said that last night, a few demons attacked the Wu family estate outside the city and engaged in a great battle with the cultivators of the Wu family. The battle was extremely intense, razing the entire Wu family estate to the ground. The loud sound came from the battle. It's too scary. A battle actually caused such a big commotion. Fortunately, the battle didn't happen in the county. Otherwise, we would also be affected. When will the imperial court completely destroy these damn demons? Chase them back into the mountains and never come out. In the crowd, a cultivator said with lingering fear, what kind of **T battle is this? A battle of magical powers isn't that powerful. That's equivalent to the self-destruction of someone at the peak of the creation realm. Yesterday, I was just watching from afar, but I was injured by the shockwaves. If I had been any closer, I might have died. The person beside him was pale and his aura was very weak. He gritted his teeth and said, damn it, I need at least half a year to recover from the injuries I suffered this time. That lunatic, His Royal Highness, was angered by him last night. The cultivator said, if it wasn't for that lunatic, His Royal Highness would have caught those demons. If the daughter of the Lord of Illusions was handed over to the imperial court, it would be a great merit. Little snake. In the crowd, a handsome man's face was covered in tears. When tears fell from his cheeks, they dissipated into the void. Beside him, a beautiful woman also shed tears. She took a deep breath and said in a hoarse voice, let's go. Thousand Fox City. After Phantom Princess, Hu Jiao and the others came back, they searched the entire Meizong sect, but they still didn't find any clues about the spy. That person was like a poisonous snake that chose people to devour. He hid in the dark, and no one knew when he would bite them again. Phantom Princess looked at Hu Jiao and Hu Lu and said, "From now on, the only people I can trust are you." Hu Jiao walked into a small courtyard. When she came out, she was holding several neatly folded clothes in her arms. She looked sad and said, "I want to build a tomb for little Snake." Outside Thousand Fox City, a small mound was piled up on a beautiful hillside. Phantom Princess and Hu Lu stood in front of the mound silently. Hu Jiao put her hand on the tombstone in front of the mound and said seriously, "Little Snake, I will avenge you, Zhejiang Commandery Prince's Mansion. Your Royal Highness, Lord Wu, Lord Mu, Mr. May's life talismans are all broken. Lord Chen's is also broken. It's the Fox Demon's revenge." Hearing the report, the Duke of Zhejiang's face became gloomier and gloomier. Foxes were indeed vengeful. Not long after they escaped, they launched a crazy revenge. He thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, "They asked for it. Inform the county government that demons from the demon nation want to kill me." The servant said, "Those demons are very powerful. I'm afraid the county government can't deal with them." The Duke of Zhejiang snorted and said, "They can't deal with them, but someone can, in the Demon Emperor's cave." Li Mu lay on the grass with his hands behind his head. He held a blade of grass in his mouth and looked up at the sky. He had completed his mission to sneak into Thousand Fox Nation, and the show was over. Although he wasn't so obsessed that he couldn't get out, after lying here for 2 days, the figures of Phantom Princess, Hu Jiao, and the people from Meizong's sect often appeared in his mind. Sure enough, he couldn't act for too long. Otherwise, it would be easy to distinguish between the scenes and the scenes. Li Mu stretched out his hand. There was a spiritual jade in his palm. In the center of the spiritual jade, there was a red mark in the shape of a blood drop. He left the spiritual jade in the Demon Emperor's space and disappeared on the spot. Zhejiang County, somewhere in Xinjiang County. Li Mu's figure appeared out of thin air. He took out the spiritual conch and injected his magic power. The Empress' angry voice came from the spiritual conch. "Li Mu, if you don't let me speak this time, I'll teach you a lesson when you come back." Li Mu coughed and said, "Your Majesty, you can speak as much as you want this time. You can speak as long as you want." Opposite the spiritual conch, Zhou Yi was stunned. Then he said, "Forget it. Your safety is more important. If you have something to say it quickly. If it takes too long, they might get suspicious." Li Mu said, "Your Majesty, don't worry. I've completed my mission. I can return to the divine capital in a few days." "You can return?" "Yes, I've already left Thousand Fox Nation." "Then don't leave in a few days. Leave now." Immediately. I want to see you before tomorrow. Do you know how I've been through these months? I'm so annoyed by the reports every day." Li Mu listened to the Empress' complaints and said helplessly, "Your Majesty, I still have some things to do in Zhejiang County. After I'm done, I'll return as soon as possible." Zhou Yi asked, "What's going on in Zhejiang County?" Li Mu said, "Zhejiang County King Xiaoheng has a large number of retainers in his residence. He also recruited a large number of cultivators through some shady means. He allowed his subordinates to do harm in Zhejiang County. I'll return after I'm done with him." Zhou Yi was a bit disappointed. He could only ask, "Can you do it alone?" Li Mu said, "I'm afraid not. I'll need the help of the Office of Worship." Zhou Yi asked, "Is 1 high priest and 10 peak 5th realm high priests enough?" Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "Just the high priest is enough. There's no need for so many people." Zhou Yi covered the conch and looked at Mr. May beside him. He said, "Go and inform the Office of Worship. Ask the 2 high priests to go to Zhejiang County together. After they're done, bring Li Mu back to me." Mr. May soon arrived at the Office of Worship. He said to the 2 high priests, "Her Majesty has decreed that the 2 high priests should go to Zhejiang County to help Lord Li deal with the Zhejiang County king. Then bring him back. If he doesn't come back, tie him up and bring him back." The 2 high priests cupped their hands together. "Yes, Your Majesty." In Changel Palace, Zhou Yi looked at the conch and said, "I heard that you massaged a fox's legs and shoulders in the Yao Kingdom. You even washed her feet?" As expected, this matter still reached the Empress' ears. His great image in the Empress' mind had probably collapsed. Li Mu sighed and said, "Your Majesty, please listen to my explanation." 2 hours later, Li Mu put down the conch. It had been a long time since he made conch with the Empress like this. In the past 2 hours he had finished reporting his work to the Empress in advance. He didn't know why the Empress was so curious about these things. She asked him to tell her everything one by one. If it weren't for the officials who asked to see her, she might have asked Li Mu to talk for 2 more hours. Li Mu returned to Zhejiang County and prepared to wait for the 2 high priests. With their speed, they would be here by this time tomorrow. He had just turned a corner when he heard an incredulous voice from behind him. "Little snake." Li Mu turned around subconsciously. When he saw Hu Jio's face, he knew he was in trouble. Hu Jio ran over excitedly and grabbed Li Mu's arm. She said in surprise, "Little snake, it's really you. You didn't die." Hu Jio wasn't the only one who was excited. Phantom Princess also had an indescribable look of surprise on her face. Only Hu Lu looked at him with surprise and doubt. Li Mu waved his hand to get rid of Hu Jio. Hu Jio was stunned and asked, "Little snake, what's wrong with you? Don't you recognize me?" Phantom Princess seemed to realize something. She looked at Li Mu and the light in her eyes quickly dimmed. At such a close distance, she didn't feel the existence of that drop of essence blood. The person in front of her wasn't Little Snake. Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and smiled. "Fox, we meet again." Little Snake wouldn't call Lord Phantom Princess that. Hu Jio finally reacted. She took a few steps back and blurted out, "You are Li Mu. The real Li Mu." Li Mu looked at Hu Jio and finally looked at Phantom Princess. He said, "The great consecrator said that he saw another me in Thousand Fox Country. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems to be true. Phantom Princess, you are too much. You don't dare to fight with me on the surface, but you humiliate me behind my back." Phantom Princess looked haggard and didn't want to talk about that. She said coldly, "What are you doing here?" Li Mu glanced at her and said, "This is Zhejiang County, one of the 36 counties in Great Zhou. I should be the one asking you this question. What are you doing here? Do you want to do something bad again?" Seeing this familiar face, Hu Jio was reminded of something sad. She gritted her teeth and said, "What right do you have to say that we are going to do bad things? Do monsters have to do bad things? You humans have done more bad things than us." Li Mu was stunned. Then he said, "Sorry, that's not what I meant. After all, we have been through life and death together. Don't quarrel as soon as you see me. What are you doing here?" Hu Jio wanted to take the opportunity to vent her anger. She didn't expect the human in front of her to be so polite and apologize to her. She was a little confused. Phantom Princess turned her head and said, "It's none of your business." Li Mu said, "Why are you like this? Is this how you heavenly foxes talk to your benefactor?" Phantom Princess said calmly, "Our grudges are even. From now on, we don't owe each other anything." Li Mu patted his chest and sighed. "Touch your conscience. What grudges do we have? You wanted to kill me in the beginning. Later, I saved you and let bygones be bygones. Now you say that our grudges are even." Phantom Princess took a deep breath and asked, "Then what do you want?" Li Mu smiled and said, "Tell me the cultivation method of the 5-tailed spirit fox. From now on, our grudges are even. We don't owe each other anything." Phantom Princess's heart skipped a beat. Although the Fox clan did not impart their cultivation techniques to outsiders, it was not absolute. Using a portion of their cultivation techniques in exchange for Li Mu's acknowledgement of ending their karma was a very good deal for her. She looked at Li Mu and reached out her hand. "It's a deal." Li Mu high-fived her and said, "It's a deal." Phantom Princess said, "Come closer." Li Mu leaned over, and Phantom Princess whispered a few words in his ear. Li Mu naturally knew the cultivation method of the 5-tailed spirit fox. He wanted to use this chance to eliminate Phantom Princess's inner demons and karma. This was what the little snake owed her. Although Phantom Princess hated him, she was sincere. The cultivation method she talked about was exactly the same as what Li Mu had comprehended from the heavenly book. However, he still looked at Phantom Princess suspiciously and asked, "You didn't just make it up to trick me, right?" Phantom Princess said coldly, "I swear on the heavenly fox. If I lie, let me die from the thunder tribulation." After that, she didn't look at Li Mu anymore. She said to Hu Lu and Hu Jiao, "Let's go." The local government had already noticed them. They also saw the military in the county city. If they continued to move, they might fall into the hands of the Great Zhou military. No matter how unwilling they were, they could only return to Thousand Fox Country and plan for the long term. They had just taken 2 steps when Li Mu's voice came from behind them again. Phantom Princess turned around and frowned. "What else do you want?" Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and said, "I came to Jiujiang County under the orders of my empress to investigate the second-rank king of Jiujiang. Someone reported that the second-rank king of Jiujiang allowed his subordinates to do some illegal things. However, I'm not familiar with this place. I know that the Meizong sect is more familiar with this place. How about this? You tell me some more clues about this case." Hu Jiao and Hu Lu looked at each other and saw joy in each other's eyes. Li Mu didn't keep his word. He just said that the grudge was written off, and now he mentioned it again. However, they were worried about how to avenge the little snake and how to save their compatriots imprisoned by the second-rank king of Jiujiang. They could use this person. Phantom Princess's eyes flashed. Then she said, "I can help you, but you have to promise me one thing." Li Mu asked, "What is it?" Phantom Princess said, "There are many demons imprisoned by the second-rank king of Jiujiang. If you punish the queen of Jiujiang, I will take these demons away." Li Mu smiled and said, "As long as you are willing to help me, that's easy." Chapter 453. Qingjiang County. In a pharmacy in the county. The doctor stroked his long beard and withdrew his hand from a man's pulse. He asked, "When did these symptoms appear?" The man said with a bitter face, Last night, I was making love with my wife. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside. It shook my house so much that it almost collapsed. At that time I made love. Then this morning I couldn't get up." The doctor nodded and then comforted him. "It's okay. It's normal to have such symptoms when you're frightened. I'll give you a prescription. You'll be fine after taking it for a few days." The man said gratefully, "Thank you, doctor. Thank you." "It's my pleasure." The doctor raised his pen and said, "Just follow this prescription to get the medicine. 100-year-old ginseng, 1 deer antler, a pair of bear paws, and a kilogram of caterpillar fungus. Take it for a few days and you'll be fine." After the man got the medicine and left, the shopkeeper of the pharmacy counted the silver and said, "I don't know what happened last night. I was sleeping soundly when there was a loud noise outside. I was so scared that I fell under the bed. I thought the earth dragon had turned over, but it was just a tremor." On the streets, the people were also discussing this matter. The loud noise last night had awakened all the people in the city. Even now, most of the people did not know what had happened. It was not until the Qingjiang County government posted a notice to calm the people that the people knew the ins and outs of the matter. The notice said that last night, a few demons attacked the Wu family estate outside the city and engaged in a great battle with the cultivators of the Wu family. The battle was extremely intense, razing the entire Wu family estate to the ground. The loud sound came from the battle. It's too scary. A battle actually caused such a big commotion. Fortunately, the battle did not happen in the county. Otherwise, we would also be in trouble. When will the imperial court completely destroy these damn demons? Chase them back into the mountains and never come out. In the crowd, a cultivator said with lingering fear, "What kind of **T battle is this? A battle of magical powers isn't that powerful. That's equivalent to the self-destruction of someone at the peak of the creation realm. Yesterday, I was just watching from afar, but I was injured by the shockwaves. If I had been any closer, I might have died." The person beside him was pale and his aura was very weak. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, I need at least half a year to recover from the injuries I suffered this time. That lunatic, His Royal Highness, was angered by him last night." The cultivator said, "If it wasn't for that lunatic, His Royal Highness would have caught those demons." If the daughter of the Lord of Illusions was handed over to the imperial court, it would be a great merit. Little snake. In the crowd, a handsome man's face was covered in tears. When tears fell from his cheeks, they dissipated into the void. Beside him, a beautiful woman also shed tears. She took a deep breath and said in a hoarse voice, "Let's go." Thousand Fox City. After Phantom Princess, Hu Jio, and the others returned, they searched the entire Meizong sect, but they still didn't find any clues about the spy. That person was like a poisonous snake that chose to devour people. He hid in the dark, and they didn't know when he would bite them again. Phantom Princess looked at Hu Jio and Hu Lu and said, "From now on, you're the only people I can trust." Hu Jio walked into a small courtyard. When he came out, he was holding several neatly folded clothes in his arms. He looked sad and said, "I want to build a tomb for Little Snake." Outside Thousand Fox City, a small mound was piled up on a beautiful hillside. Phantom Princess and Hu Lu stood in front of the mound silently. Hu Jio put his hand on the tombstone in front of the mound and said seriously, "Little Snake, I'll definitely avenge you." Zhejiang Commandery Prince's Mansion. Your Royal Highness, Lord Wu, Lord Mu, Mr. May's life talisman is broken. Lord Chen's is also broken. It's the fox demon's revenge. Hearing the report, the Duke of Zhejiang's face became gloomier and gloomier. Foxes were indeed vengeful. Not long after they escaped, they launched a crazy revenge. He thought for a moment and said in a low voice, "They asked for it. Inform the county government that a demon from the demon nation wants to kill me." The servant said, "Those demons are very powerful. I'm afraid the county government can't deal with them." The Duke of Zhejiang snorted and said, "They can't deal with them, but someone can." Demon King's Cave. Li Mu lay on the grass with his hands behind his head. He held a blade of grass in his mouth and looked up at the sky. He had completed his mission to sneak into Thousand Fox Nation, and the show was over. Although he wasn't so obsessed that he couldn't get out, after lying here for 2 days, the figures of Phantom Princess, Hu Jio, and the people of Meizong sect often appeared in his mind. Sure enough, he couldn't act for too long. Otherwise, it would be easy to distinguish between the inside and outside of the show. Li Mu stretched out his hand. There was a spiritual jade in his palm. In the center of the spiritual jade, there was a red mark in the shape of a drop of blood. He left the spiritual jade in the Demon King's space and disappeared on the spot. Zhejiang County, somewhere in Xinjiang County. Li Mu's figure appeared out of thin air. He took out the spiritual conch and injected his magic power. The Empress' angry voice came from the spiritual conch. "Li Mu, if you don't let me speak this time, I'll teach you a lesson when you come back." Li Mu coughed and said, "Your Majesty, you can speak as much as you want this time. You can speak as long as you want." Opposite the spiritual conch, Zhou Yi was stunned. Then he said, "Forget it. Your safety is more important. If you have something to say it quickly. If it takes too long, they might get suspicious." Li Mu said, "Your Majesty, don't worry. I've completed my mission. I can return to the divine capital in a few days." "You can return?" "Yes, I've left Thousand Fox Nation." "Then don't wait. Leave now. Immediately. I want to see you before tomorrow. Do you know how I've been through these months? I'm so annoyed by reading the reports every day." Li Mu listened to the Empress' complaints and said helplessly, "Your Majesty, I still have some things to do in Zhejiang County. After I'm done, I'll return as soon as possible." Zhou Yi asked, "What's going on in Zhejiang County?" Li Mu said, "Zhejiang County King Xiaoheng has a large number of followers in his residence. He also recruited a large number of cultivators through some shady means. He allowed his subordinates to do harm in Zhejiang County. I'll return after I'm done with him." Zhou Yi was a bit disappointed. He could only ask, "Can you do it alone?" Li Mu said, "I'm afraid not. I need the help of the Office of Worship." Zhou Qiong asked, "Is 1 high consecrator and 10 peak-level 5th realm consecrators enough?" Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "Just the high priest is enough. There's no need for so many people." Zhou Yi covered the conch and looked at Mr. May beside him. He said, "Go and inform the Office of Worship. Ask the two high priests to go to Jiujiang County together. After they're done, bring Li Mu back to me. Mr. Mei soon arrived at the office of worship. He said to the two high priests, Her Majesty has decreed that the two high priests should go to Jiujiang County to help Lord Li deal with the Jiujiang County king. Then bring him back. If he doesn't come back, tie him up and bring him back. The two high priests cupped their hands at the same time. Yes, Your Majesty. In Changel Palace, Zhou Yi looked at the conch and said, I heard that you massaged a fox's legs and shoulders in the Yao Kingdom. You even washed her feet? As expected, this matter still reached the ears of the Empress. His great image in the Empress' mind had probably collapsed. Li Mu sighed and said, Your Majesty, please listen to my explanation. 2 hours later, Li Mu put down the conch. It had been a long time since he made conch with the Empress like this. In the past 2 hours, he had finished reporting his work to the Empress in advance. He didn't know why the Empress was so curious about these things. She asked him to tell her everything one by one. If it weren't for the officials who asked to see her, she might have asked Li Mu to talk for 2 hours. Li Mu returned to Jiujiang County and prepared to wait for the two high priests. With their speed, they would be here by this time tomorrow. He had just turned a corner when he heard an incredulous voice from behind him. Little snake. Li Mu turned around subconsciously. When he saw Hu Jiao's face, he knew he was in trouble. Hu Jiao ran over excitedly and grabbed Li Mu's arm. She said in surprise, Little snake, it's really you. You didn't die. Hu Jiao wasn't the only one who was excited. Phantom Princess also had an indescribable look of surprise on her face. Only Hu Lu looked at him with surprise and doubt. Li Mu waved his hand to shake off Hu Jiao. Hu Jiao was stunned and asked, Little snake, what's wrong? Don't you recognize me? Phantom Princess seemed to realize something. She looked at Li Mu and the light in her eyes quickly dimmed. At such a close distance, she didn't feel the existence of that drop of essence blood. The person in front of her wasn't Little Snake. Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and smiled. Fox, we meet again. Little Snake wouldn't call Lord Phantom Princess that. Hu Jiao finally reacted. She took a few steps back and blurted out, You're Li Mu. The real Li Mu. Li Mu looked at Hu Jiao and finally looked at Phantom Princess. He said, The great consecrator said that he saw another me in Thousand Fox Country. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems to be true. Phantom Princess, you've gone too far. You don't dare to fight with me on the surface, but you humiliate me behind my back. Phantom Princess looked haggard and didn't want to talk about that. She said coldly, What are you doing here? Li Mu glanced at her and said, This is Jiujiang County, one of the 36 counties in Great Zhou. I should be the one asking you this question. What are you doing here? Do you want to do something bad again? Seeing this familiar face, Hu Jiao was reminded of something sad. She gritted her teeth and said, Why do you say we're doing bad things? Do monsters have to do bad things? You humans have done more bad things than us. Li Mu was stunned for a moment. Then he said, Sorry, that's not what I meant. We've been through life and death together. Don't quarrel as soon as you see me. What are you doing here? Hu Jiao wanted to take the opportunity to vent her anger. She didn't expect the human in front of her to be so polite and apologize to her. She didn't know what to do. Phantom Princess turned her head and said, It's none of your business. Li Mu said, Why are you like this? Is this how you heavenly foxes talk to your benefactor? Phantom Princess said calmly, Our grudges are even. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Li Mu patted his chest and sighed, Touch your conscience. What grudges do we have? You wanted to kill me in the beginning. Later, I saved you and let bygones be bygones. Now you say that our grudges are even. Phantom Princess took a deep breath and asked, Then what do you want? Li Mu smiled and said, Tell me the cultivation method of the five-tailed fox spirit. From now on, our grudges are even. We don't owe each other anything. Phantom Princess's heart skipped a beat. Although the Fox clan did not impart their cultivation techniques to outsiders, it was not absolute. Using a portion of their cultivation techniques in exchange for Li Mu's acknowledgement of ending their karma was a very good deal for her. She looked at Li Mu and reached out her hand. "It's a deal." But Li Mu high-fived her and said, "It's a deal." Phantom Princess said, "Come closer." Li Mu leaned over, and Phantom Princess whispered a few words in his ear. Li Mu naturally knew the cultivation method of the five-tailed fox race. He wanted to use this chance to eliminate Phantom Princess's inner demons and karma. This was the little snake's debt to her. Although Phantom Princess hated him, she was sincere. The cultivation method she talked about was exactly the same as what Li Mu had comprehended from the Heavenly Book. However, he still looked at Phantom Princess suspiciously and asked, "You didn't just make it up to trick me, right?" Phantom Princess said coldly, "I swear on the Heavenly Fox race. If I lie, let me die from the thunder tribulation." After that, she didn't look at Li Mu anymore. She said to Hu Lu and Hu Jiao, "Let's go." The local government had already noticed them. They also saw the military in the county. If they continued to move, they might fall into the hands of the Great Zhou's military. No matter how unwilling they were, they could only return to Thousand Fox Country and plan for the long term. Wait, they had just taken 2 steps when Li Mu's voice came from behind them again. Phantom Princess turned around and frowned. "What else do you want?" Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess and said, "I came to Jiujiang County under the orders of my Empress to investigate the Duke of Jiujiang. Someone reported that the Duke of Jiujiang allowed his subordinates to do some illegal things. However, I'm not familiar with this place. I know that the Meizong sect is more familiar with this place. How about this, you tell me some more clues about this case. Then we won't owe each other anything." Hu Jiao and Hu Lu looked at each other and saw joy in each other's eyes. Li Mu didn't keep his word. He just said that the grudge would be written off. Now he mentioned it again. However, they were still worried about how to avenge the little snake and how to save their compatriots imprisoned by the Duke of Jiujiang. They could use this person. Phantom Princess's eyes flashed. Then she said, "I can help you, but you have to promise me one thing." Li Mu asked, "What is it?" Phantom Princess said, "The Duke of Jiujiang has imprisoned many demons. You have dealt with the Queen of Jiujiang. I want to take these demons away." Li Mu smiled and said, "As long as you're willing to help me, that's easy." Chapter 454. Duke Manor. The Duke of Jiujiang, Xiaoheng, was setting up a banquet. He raised his cup to a tall man in golden armor and said, "Here's a toast to General Lu." The man in golden armor said emotionlessly, "Drinking is forbidden in the Northern Army." The Duke of Jiujiang smiled and said, "This is not the army." The man in golden armor said, "The people are not here, but the military rules are." The Duke of Jiujiang said apologetically, "I didn't know the rules. General Lu, please don't blame me. Men, bring me my precious tea." Very soon, the servants of the regional king's mansion had finished brewing tea and respectfully served it to the golden-armored man. The golden-armored man took a sip of tea and asked, "Does the regional king have any enmity with that fox demon?" The Duke of Jiujiang shook his head and said, "No grudges." "That's strange." The man in golden armor looked at him and said, "If you don't have any grudges, why do they have to find you? The fox demons value grudges very much. If you don't have any grudges with them, how can there be consequences?" The Commandery Prince of Jiujiang narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "General Lu, you are wrong. The demonic beasts are our enemies. They want to kill me. Should General Lu ask them why? Let's catch the demonic beasts that are disturbing our county and bring peace back to this place. Isn't that what the government and the Northern Army should do?" The man in golden armor blew on the tea and didn't refute the Duke of Jiujiang. The second-rank prince of Jiujiang was right. His duty was to guard the bordering counties, stop the demons from causing trouble, and protect the people of the Jiujiang county. No matter what the second-rank prince of Jiujiang did, no matter what those demons were hiding, he had to catch those demons and protect the second-rank prince of Jiujiang. After all, he was the general of the Great Zhou. After a short period of silence, the Duke of Jiujiang said in a regretful tone, "Those 3 fox demons have disappeared for 2 days. If I knew earlier, I wouldn't have ordered the county government to hunt them down. I don't know where they are hiding. If they ran back to the Demon Kingdom, wouldn't General Lu's trip be in vain? The man in golden armor put down his cup and said, "It's not in vain. They're here." As soon as he said that, two loud noises came from outside. "What's that sound?" The second-rank prince of Zhejiang stood up and frowned. Just as he was about to ask his servant, another deep voice resounded through the entire Zhejiang commandery prince's mansion. "Xiaoheng, commandery prince of Zhejiang, get out here." The voice rolled over. The Duke of Zhejiang was stunned for a moment, and then extreme anger appeared on his face. In Zhejiang County, there was actually someone who dared to call him by his name and tell him to get out of the county king's mansion? His face was gloomy as he strode outside. At the same time, at the entrance of the county king's manor, Li Mu looked at the array that enveloped the entire county king's manor after he destroyed the main door. He turned to look at the two head reverends. Without any exchange of words, one of the high consecrators raised his palm and pressed it down. Pop, after a sound similar to a bubble bursting, the entire formation silently disappeared. When Li Mu walked into the county king's manor, there were already several figures rushing toward him. They were all the county king's retainers. "Stop! Who are you? How dare you barge into the regional prince's mansion? You're courting death." The three people at the front were all at the 5th level of cultivation. Facing the group of people who barged into the county king's manor, they did not hesitate to attack. 3 invisible supernatural power attacks came straight at them. A majestic aura gushed out of Li Mu's body and swept forward. The 3 people's attacks disappeared into thin air, and they were forced back a few steps. Behind Li Mu, Hu Jiao could not help but exclaim, "So powerful!" Huan Ji's gaze was complicated. She rarely had a match among her peers until she met Li Mu, the man who would crush her confidence every time. He made her understand that there was always someone better than her. The 3 Zhejiang commandery princes' manor powerhouses looked at the young man in front of them with fearful eyes. This person's strength was beyond their imagination. Then, they saw a few familiar figures behind the young man, and they could not help but exclaim in surprise. "Lord County Governor! The County Governor and County Lieutenant are also here." "Who is he? What is he doing here?" The County King's Manor's retainers were often active in Zhejiang County, so they naturally knew the officers in charge of the county yamen. These people represented the imperial court. Ever since the divine capital's Shao royal family suffered great losses, even the county king was much more polite to them than before. But now, they were standing respectfully behind this young man. It seemed like they did not come with good intentions. The 3 of them were fearful and did not dare to do anything for a while. At that moment, Zhejiang commandery prince Xiaoheng had already walked out. "Who are you? How dare you be so presumptuous here?" Xiaoheng walked out with a gloomy face. His voice was heard before he even arrived. However, when he saw the figure at the door, his expression changed drastically. Although it was his first time seeing Li Mu, the divine capital's imperial family had sent him a portrait long ago. It said that this person was the empress' favored official and had great power in the imperial court. Both the new and old parties had been suppressed by him to the extreme. His cousin, the county governor of Nanyang, had died at the hands of Li Mu. It was because of this person that the old party had lost most of their control over the imperial court in a year. The imperial family warned him that if he met this person, he should avoid him if possible. If he could not avoid him, he should try his best not to provoke him. Xiaoheng did not take this to heart. After all, he was far away in Zhejiang County, which was thousands of miles away from the divine capital. No matter how long Li Mu's hands were, they could not reach him. He did not expect this person to come to his residence today. Although he was furious, Xiaoheng still put on a warm smile on his face. He said, "I've heard a lot about Lord Li. I've wanted to make friends with you for a long time, but I never had the chance." Seeing that the county governor of Zhejiang was taking the initiative to be friendly, Hu Jiao and Huan Ji's expressions changed slightly. If Li Mu sided with the county governor of Zhejiang now, they would have nowhere to run. If Li Mu was in cahoots with the county governor of Zhejiang and this was actually a trap for them, at this moment, Phantom Princess's mind was in a mess. She should not have trusted Li Mu so easily. She should not have put herself in danger. She should not have, until Li Mu snorted and said to the county governor of Zhejiang, "Don't try to get close to me. Do I know you? Xiaoheng, you've committed a crime. I'm here today on the orders of the imperial court to bring you to justice." Xiaoheng's eyelids twitched, but he still pretended to be calm. He said, "Lord Li, I'm afraid you're mistaken. I've always been a law-abiding person. Why would the imperial court want to arrest me?" Li Mu said indifferently, "You're heartless. You ordered your retainers to kidnap women for your sexual pleasure. How many innocent women have been harmed? Even if you're a noble, I'll still get rid of this evil for the people." Xiaoheng could already tell that Li Mu did not come with good intentions. Today's matter would not be settled peacefully. His expression changed drastically. He pointed at Phantom Princess and the other two behind Li Mu and said loudly, "Do you see that? The 3 demons behind him are the 3 demons wanted by the imperial court. This person is in cahoots with the demons. County Governor of Zhejiang, you're helping the demons. Why aren't you taking him down?" The county governor of Zhejiang was unmoved. They had already verified Li Mu's identity. The 2 elders beside him were also the most powerful cultivators of the imperial court. Who would believe that the imperial court did not order the 2 high priests to accompany him? Even if it was not, he had 2 sixth realm cultivators with him. Who would dare to go against him? It did not matter if he was sent by the imperial court or not. The result was the same. The local government could not get involved, and they could not afford to. Seeing that the county governor of Zhejiang and the others did not move, the county governor of Zhejiang ordered his retainers, "Why aren't you killing this traitor who colluded with the demons?" The retainers of the county governor's residence received the order. Some started to form hand seals while others activated their Dharma treasures. Li Mu raised his hand. A golden light flew out from his hand and turned into a golden rope. It quickly passed through the crowd of retainers. They felt their waists tighten. Then, the golden rope tied them together. Seeing this, the county governor of Zhejiang's face paled. Without hesitation, he ran to the main hall behind him and shouted, "General Liu, save me!" The man in golden armor suddenly appeared beside him. The county governor of Zhejiang finally saw his savior. He hid behind the man in golden armor and said, "General Liu, save me. This group of traitors wants to rebel against their superiors." Looking at the man in golden armor, Li Mu did not make a move. Li Mu could not see through this person's cultivation at all. This meant that this person's cultivation had surpassed the 5th realm. Judging from his clothes, he should be a powerful cultivator in the army. Other than the Imperial Guards, the Great Zhou's borders near the Ghost Realm, the Yao Nation, and the southern kingdoms were all heavily guarded. They were in charge of monitoring foreign enemies and protecting the local people. Li Mu took out his waist token and showed it to the man in golden armor. He said, "Li Mu, a member of the Imperial Secretariat, the deputy commander of the Empress Bamboo Guards, and the commander of the Consecration Department. I have come under the orders of Her Majesty to capture the county governor of Zhejiang, Xiaoheng. General, please step aside." The county governor of Zhejiang shouted, "General Liu, don't listen to him. Look at the 3 demons beside him. He colluded with demons and brought chaos to this place. His crime is punishable by death." The man in golden armor pondered for a moment. He looked at Li Mu and asked, "Do you have an imperial edict?" Li Mu said, "No, this is an imperial edict from Her Majesty." The man in golden armor said, "He is a noble. Without an imperial edict, I cannot let you take him away. Lord Li, you can go back to the fairy's capital and ask for an imperial edict. I only accept imperial edicts." Li Mu did not make things difficult for the man in golden armor. From the process, what he did was correct. If a person could take a county governor away with just a few words, it meant that there was a loophole in the laws of the Great Zhou. However, he was too lazy to go back to the fairy's capital. He took out the spirit conch and whispered a few words to it. Then, he handed it to the general in golden armor and said, "General, since you don't believe me, I will let Her Majesty talk to you personally." The general in golden armor took the spirit conch and put it to his ear. Hearing the voice from the spirit conch, he was stunned for a moment. Then, his expression immediately became serious. He said solemnly, "Yes, yes, I will help Lord Li deal with this matter. I will take my leave." He slowly took the spirit conch from his ear and handed it to Li Mu with both hands. He said, "Lord Li, take care of this treasure. Her Majesty has ordered me to help you deal with the case of the county governor of Zhejiang." The county governor of Zhejiang panicked when his only reinforcements betrayed him. He grabbed the general in golden armor's arm and said in a trembling voice, "It's fake. It's all fake. General Lu, please don't believe me. Please don't believe me." Even though they were far apart, the general in golden armor could feel how powerful the person on the other side of the spirit conch was. The general in golden armor slowly backed away and said, "If you are innocent, you can report this to Lord Li. I believe that the imperial court will give you justice. You can rest assured that even if Lord Li does not have enough evidence, I will protect you." Rest assured? Rest assured my ass. The county governor of Zhejiang was in despair. He knew what he had done. If this happened a year ago, he would not be afraid. Even if the matter was exposed, there were countless people in the fairy's capital who would protect him. However, it was different now. The county governor of Nanyang, his cousin, had committed far fewer crimes than him. In the end, he was beheaded and his body and soul were destroyed. Once the matter of the county governor's mansion was exposed, his life would be over. The county governor of Zhejiang did not hesitate to crush a jade talisman in his hand. His body instantly disappeared from the spot. At the same time, the space outside the county governor's mansion was distorted. He staggered and fell out. He took out a flying boat and was about to escape when he suddenly noticed that the old man who had been standing behind Li Mu in the county governor's mansion was standing at the bow of the boat. He looked at the county governor with a smile and asked, "Where are you going?" In his panic, the county governor of Zhejiang did not even care about the flying boat. He crushed another jade talisman. The next time he appeared, he was dozens of miles away. However, not far ahead, there was a figure waiting for him. It was a man who looked exactly like the old man. He looked at the county governor of Zhejiang indifferently and said, "Don't waste your energy. If I let you escape today, how can I stay in the imperial court in the future?" The county governor of Zhejiang tried to escape, but he was caught by the two great reverends. This time, even the general in golden armor did not bother to pay attention to him. The county governor of Zhejiang refused to admit to his crimes. Due to his status, Li Mu could not take any forceful measures against him before the evidence was conclusive. However, it was different for his retainers. The two great reverends had already gone to arrest him. The results would be out very soon. In this period of time, Li Mu and the general in golden armor had chatted for a while, and they had become familiar with each other. He also learned that this was one of the 4 great generals of the Great Zhou's Northern Army. He came from White Deer Academy. Apart from the Imperial Army, the Great Zhou also had the 4 armies of the North, South, East, and West. Of these, the Northern Army was the strongest. The 4 great generals that guarded this place were all 6th-level cultivators. This was because compared to the 3 armies, the county governor of Zhejiang guarded by the Northern Army was more dangerous. The Yao Kingdom had always been eyeing the Great Zhou covetously. The threat it posed was even greater than that of the Ghost Realm and the Southern Kingdoms. The general in golden armor smiled and said, "My elder brother once said that this year's martial scholar was skilled in martial arts. At the same level of cultivation, even the bravest and most skilled soldier of the Northern Army might not be able to defeat you. Seeing you today, I know that his words were not exaggerated." Li Mu asked, "Who is your esteemed elder brother?" The general in golden armor said, "My elder brother was the assistant minister of the Ministry of War. A family with 2 fierce generals, and the assistant minister of the Ministry of War had even taught him how to use telekinesis to gather force." Li Mu immediately felt deep veneration. He cupped his hands and said, "My apologies, my apologies." After exchanging a few pleasantries, Li Mu thought of something and asked, "I have a matter that I would like to ask General Lu about." The general in golden armor smiled and said, "Lord Li, there is no harm in asking." Li Mu asked. The former assistant minister of the Ministry of Justice, Zhou Zhong, was once sentenced to exile because of a case. What is his current situation? The general in golden armor shook his head and said, he was once sent to the Northern Army, but not long after, he disappeared. Li Mu said, disappeared? The general in golden armor nodded and said, he is very strong. In just 2 months, he made a lot of military contributions. I originally wanted to promote him to deputy general, but 3 months ago, after he destroyed a small Yao kingdom by himself, he completely disappeared and has not been seen since. Li Mu was not worried about Zhou Zhong's disappearance. Until now, he still did not know how much strength Zhou Zhong had hidden. A person like him was strong and could endure. Everything he did was probably calculated by him, so there was no need for others to worry about him. Li Mu and General Lu did not chat for long before the 2 great reverends came back. Huan Ji and Hu Jiao were very familiar with the Zhejiang Commandery Prince and his subordinates. They were the ones who suggested who to arrest first and who to arrest later. Of the 10 great heretical cultivation masters, 4 were already dead. Of the remaining 6, none of them managed to escape. Under the methods of the 2 great reverends, they confessed to their crimes. The Zhejiang Commandery Prince was the instigator. According to the laws of the Great Zhou, his head should be chopped off 100 times. The general in golden armor said, I did not expect such a thing to happen in Zhejiang Commandery. Huan Ji said coldly, you all say that we Yao clan are causing trouble for the people of Zhejiang Commandery, but the truth is that we Yao clan are being persecuted by you humans in Zhejiang Commandery. Don't you feel ashamed to say that you want to kill Yao clan? This time, less than 10% of the victims rescued by the government were humans. More than 90% were Yao clan. The general in golden armor and the officials of Zhejiang Commandery could not answer Huan Ji. The laws of the Great Zhou protected the people of the Great Zhou, not the Yao clan. Although this was the truth, they had a balance in their hearts. What maintained this balance was their conscience as living beings. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Li Mu said, that's enough. You cannot represent all Yao clan, and the Zhejiang Commandery Prince cannot represent all humans. Your view is too extreme. There are many Yao clan that harm people. Isn't the Imperial Court's investigation of the Zhejiang Commandery Prince a representation of our attitude? Huan Ji did not argue with Li Mu. She said, I want to see the Zhejiang Commandery Prince. The general in golden armor said firmly, impossible. Although the Zhejiang Commandery Prince was a criminal, he was still a noble. Who knew what this fox demon would do after seeing him? Naturally, he could not let this demon see him. Li Mu glanced at the golden armor general and said in a low voice, General Lu, you've seen the miserable state of those demons, haven't you? You also have a wife and a daughter. Think about it. The Commandery Prince of Zhejiang is a scumbag. He has destroyed so many of those demons. If we don't let them spit and slap them in front of him, we will be too inhumane. The general in golden armor thought of the hellish scene in the human world. A ball of anger rose in his heart. He closed his eyes and said, Lord Li is the imperial envoy. Everything is up to you. Li Mu brought Huan Ji to the door of the prison. He said softly, I only have one request. Don't kill them. Otherwise, I will not be able to explain myself. Huan Ji nodded and said, I know what to do. She, Hu 6, and Hu 9 entered the prison. After 15 minutes, they came out. Li Mu asked, What did you find out? Huan Ji shook her head and said, Nothing. But someone did tell him. Hu Jiao punched the wall heavily. She gritted her teeth and said, It's that person. It's that person who killed Little Snake. Don't let me know who he is. Otherwise, I will smash his ass and cut him into pieces. Li Mu patted her shoulder and comforted her. The dead can't come back to life. My condolences. Hu Jiao suddenly looked up at Li Mu and said, Most humans are hypocritical and shameless. They are greedy and cruel. You are a good person. Why don't you join the Meizong sect? With your ability, you will have a high position in the Meizong sect. Li Mu said, I also have a high position in the Great Zhou court. Hu Jiao continued to tempt him. The beauties of the Thousand Fox country are unparalleled. You can marry many. Think about it. Aren't the beauties of the fox clan beautiful? Aren't the beauties of the snake clan clingy? There are also the beauties of the cat clan, the rabbit clan, the dog clan. Stop, stop, stop. Li Mu looked at Hu Jiao and asked, "Do you think I am that kind of lecherous person?" Hu Jiao asked back, "Aren't you?" Li Mu coughed softly and said, "What I mean is, although I am lustful, I don't want everything. I am loyal to the Empress. I am the Empress's man when I am alive, and the Empress's ghost when I die. You should give up." Hu Jiao thought for a moment and said, "You don't like other people, but do you not like Master Phantom Princess? Do you dare to say that you don't like Master Phantom Princess? If you don't like Master Phantom Princess, why are you so nice to us?" Phantom Princess's face darkened. Hu Jiao. Li Mu thought that he was very careful in front of Phantom Princess and Hu Jiao. He would never let them think that he was Little Snake. But he still neglected a very important point. In order to make up for deceiving Phantom Princess and Hu Jiao, Li Mu had been very nice to them these 2 days. Although he often dissed Phantom Princess, he actually indulged her and took care of her to the extreme. He even made an exception to meet her unreasonable requests. As for the real Li Mu, the moment he met Phantom Concubine, he would fight to the death. In comparison, the change in his personality was especially obvious. He had avoided all the small openings but revealed the biggest one. Hu Jiao's question went straight to the point. Phantom Princess didn't realize that when she went back, she might have some associations that Li Mu didn't want her to have. When Li Mu pretended to be Little Snake, he was ravaged by Phantom Princess every day. He massaged her legs, shoulders, and feet. If Phantom Princess knew that Li Mu was Little Snake, Li Mu would have no face in front of her in the future. He absolutely couldn't allow such a thing to happen. There must be a way to explain it. There must be a way to explain it. Li Mu looked at Hu Jiao, and an idea flashed in his mind. He simply admitted, "Yes, that's right. I like Phantom Princess, but you found out." Hu Jiao was stunned, and Phantom Princess was even more stunned. Li Mu's expression became even more indifferent. He said, "You also know that I'm very lecherous. I can't wait to have all the beauties in the world. How can I let go of such a beautiful little fox? I originally wanted to take this opportunity to do you a favor. At that time, Phantom Princess will owe me a big favor. Besides marrying me, what can she use to repay me?" Hu Jiao was stunned. Didn't you say that you want us to help you find evidence of Jiujiang Commandery Prince's crime?" Li Mu snorted and said, "I'm afraid you've forgotten who I am. I want a little Jiujiang Commandery Prince to die. What evidence do I need to find?" Hu Jiao's throat moved, and she swallowed a mouthful of saliva. With Li Mu's power, it didn't seem to be so troublesome to kill Jiujiang Commandery Prince. After Phantom Princess came to her senses, she looked at Li Mu and gritted her teeth. "Don't even think about it." On the other hand, Hu Lu pulled down her collar and winked at Li Mu. She said, "Lord Li, as long as you're willing to come to Meizong's sect, I'm also willing to marry you." Li Mu shook his head and said flatly, "You're too old. I don't want." After a short silence, Sister Lu, forget it. You can't beat him." Hu Jiao stopped the furious Hu Lu. She looked up at Li Mu and asked, "You don't like Sister Lu. What do you think of me?" There was another short silence. Li Mu gritted his teeth and said, "Phantom Princess, Hu Lu, don't stop me." Hu Jiao dodged the lightning and said, "Life is short. Why not try? How will you know if you don't try?" Chapter 455. In the eyes of Illusion Princess and Hu Jiao, Li Mu was just a lecher. He might as well admit it so that his image would not collapse. After striking Hu Jiao a few times, Li Mu said to Illusion Princess, "You can choose not to admit it, as long as you feel good about it." Illusion Princess snorted and said, "I'm not that stupid fox in your house. I'll repay what I owe you in the future. You want me to repay you with my body? Dream on." Li Mu shrugged and didn't want to argue with her anymore. As long as she did not think that Li Mu was Little Snake, nothing else mattered. He walked into the prison and saw that the Jiujiang Commandery Prince was still alive. It would not affect his return to the fairies' capital. There were many human women imprisoned by the Zhejiang commandery prince and his followers. Li Mu had already ordered the local government to contact their families. Illusion Princess, Hu Jiao, and Hu Jiao were healing some demons. Many female demons were used as cultivation furnaces. They were recklessly harvested and damaged their foundation. Li Mu wanted to help, but these demons were very resistant to humans. He could only watch from the side. The matter of the Zhejiang commandery prince was over. General Lu also left the city and returned to the army. The Zhejiang commandery prince walked to Li Mu and said, "Lord Li, we've contacted most of the victims' families. Some of them did not have families and refused the government's arrangements. They wanted to follow the fox demon." Li Mu sighed and said, "Let them make their own decisions." After going through such a thing, it was hard for them to have any good feelings towards the government. They had not gone through their sufferings and had no right to interfere with their decisions. The Zhejiang commandery prince's mansion was temporarily used to house the victims. Illusion Princess was healing them, but her mana was limited. Soon, she overdrew her mana and was forcefully helped by Hu Lu to a room to rest. When Li Mu walked into the room, she was lying on the table and sleeping soundly. She was holding 2 spiritual jades in her hand to recover her mana. Li Mu let out a sigh of relief. Now, this matter was finally over. From then on, there was no more little snake Wu Yanzu. There was only the great Zhou's Li Mu. He turned around and left. When he reached the door, the sleeping phantom princess murmured, "Little snake, don't go. Help me rub my shoulders. I'm so tired." Li Mu paused for a moment. After a long silence, he sighed. When Huan Ji woke up, her eyes were a little dazed. In her dream, she vaguely felt a pair of hands gently kneading her shoulders. It was very comfortable. When she woke up, there was nothing behind her. This made her suspect that it was an illusion. Hu Lu walked in from outside and said, "Master Illusion Princess, you're awake?" Illusion Princess asked, "Who just came in?" Hu Lu snorted and said, "That blind man." Illusion Princess knew that she was talking about Li Mu. She then realized that this pervert didn't take advantage of her while she was sleeping, right? She didn't know if he had touched any other places besides her shoulders. Fantasy Princess lowered her head to look at her chest and then turned back to look at her round and perky breasts. She couldn't remember if anyone had touched her there before. She stood up and asked angrily, "Where is he?" Hu Lu said, "He left." Illusion Princess was stunned and asked, "Where did he go?" "He should have returned to the great Zhou's Shindu." Hu Lu's expression was a little complicated. When he left, he said that the Zhejiang County King's matter was the imperial court's fault. So, Master Illusion Princess doesn't owe him anything and doesn't need to repay him with your body? Illusion Princess snorted and said, "In his dreams. Who said I was going to repay him with my body?" Hu Lu said, "Also, before he left, he asked the Zhejiang County King's officials to escort us back. This is the first time I've seen a human like this. Is he doing all this just because he wants Master Illusion Princess's body?" Illusion Princess didn't want to think about this and said, "Let Hu Jiao prepare. Let's go back. I don't want to stay here for another minute." After leaving Zhejiang County, Li Mu buried everything that happened in the past few months in his heart. He didn't want to mention it to anyone. He wanted to return to Mount Baiyun and tell Xiao by the cultivation method of the fox race. Then, he wanted to spend some time with Lu Hanyan and Li Qing. He hoped that they weren't in seclusion. Just as he rose into the air, 2 figures blocked his path. Li Mu glanced at the 2 high priests and asked, "What are you doing?" One high priest said, "Her Majesty ordered that Master Li must return to the Shindu immediately after dealing with Zhejiang County King's matter." Li Mu waved his hand and said, "You guys go back first. I'll be back soon. I need to go back to Mount Baiyun first." The 2 high priests didn't move. Li Mu frowned and said, "What is the meaning of this?" The other high priest said, "We can't go against Her Majesty's orders. Master Li, please excuse us. What are you doing? Are you rebelling? Don't come over. Do you still want your heavenly secret talisman? At least let me pick someone up." Li Mu tried his best to persuade the 2 old men to let him go back to Mount Baiyun to pick up Wan Wan and Xiao Bai. As for the idea of spending some time with Lu Hanyan and Li Qing, it was ruined. However, the two of them were in seclusion, so Li Mu didn't feel that it was a pity. The two girls' current cultivation bases weren't achieved step by step. As the core disciples of Fulu School and the future head of the school, they had a lot of homework to catch up on in the next few years. Poor Li Mu was no longer a single dog, but he was still living the life of a single dog. Fortunately, he had a strong will. Normal men wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of cat girls, rabbit girls, beautiful fox demons, and clingy snake girls. They would have been persuaded by Hu Jiao to betray him. In a sense, Li Mu and the Empress were both pitiful people. One of them had a husband who died a long time ago, while the other was separated from his wife. If it weren't for their status and self-control, who knew what kind of sparks would fly between them after spending so much time together? Xiaobai had already started cultivating according to the new method. On the flying boat to the divine capital, Li Mu looked at Wan Wan and Xiaobai, who was laughing and playing with each other. He couldn't help but think of Phantom Princess and the days when he was undercover in Thousand Fox Nation. There were no conspiracies, no schemes, and no schemes. Those were the days he missed. Thousand Fox Nation. Phantom Princess spent a few days settling down the demons and human female cultivators she rescued from Jiujiang County. Then, she dragged her exhausted body back to her residence. Her magic power and body were overused. Even with her cultivation base, she felt physically and mentally exhausted at this moment. It was already late at night. She walked to her courtyard and sat on a stone chair. She said subconsciously, "Little snake, come and help me massage my back." There was no response for a long time. Phantom Princess said again, "Little." Her voice gradually trailed off and finally disappeared completely. Only a long sigh was left in the silent courtyard. At the same time, in Thousand Fox Nation's imperial palace, Bai Xian was pacing in his palace with a displeased expression. He snorted coldly, "I thought the Duke of Jiujiang was powerful. He's simply a piece of trash among trash." "He let them escape," a servant behind him said. "I've already asked around. If it wasn't for that damn snake, Hu Jiao and the others wouldn't have survived this time." Bai Xian said, "I've long disliked that snake. It's good that he's dead. Next time, no one will ruin our plans. However, if Junior Sister dies like this, it'll be a pity. The Heavenly Fox bloodline in her body is so thick that even Master can't compare to it. If I can dual cultivate with her, it'll be very beneficial for me." He tidied up his clothes and smiled. "She almost died this time. As her senior brother, I should go and see her." Phantom Princess residence. Phantom Princess sat in the courtyard and said lightly, "I'm fine. Crown Prince, please go back. I need to rest." Bai Xian stood outside the courtyard and said, "Junior Sister, rest well. I'll go back first." He didn't even step into the courtyard. Bai Xian returned to the palace with a gloomy face. When he returned to his bedroom, he saw a black figure standing in the hall. His expression immediately became respectful. He bowed and said, "Envoy, what are your orders?" The black figure asked eerily, "You should know where Heaven Lord of Illusion is in seclusion, right?" Bai Xian's eyelids twitched. He quickly smiled and said, "This seclusion is very important to him. Although he didn't tell me the exact location, there are only a few. If I search one by one, I'll find it." Chapter 456. Li Mu had just finished his undercover life in Qianhu Nation. After returning to Chengdu, he began to busy himself with official business again. The first thing he had to deal with was the Empress's backlog of memorials. If the Empress was judged by the Emperor's standards, she was definitely a fatuous ruler. Li Mu was a censor in the Imperial Secretariat, but he was ordered to be a head eunuch by her. She read books and planted flowers every day. It was too easy to be an emperor. After returning from Jiujiang County, Li Mu no longer had to worry about his identity being exposed. Shengguan Li and Mr. Mei had already found out the two palace maids who were on duty near Chang'e Palace. They had been secretly providing information for Meizong all this time. They were the ones who leaked the news of Li Mu sleeping in the palace to Meizong. His reputation with the Empress was also damaged because of this. Hu Jio still thought that Li Mu was an LSP and had an affair with the Empress. They had maintained an improper relationship for a long time. In the Imperial Clan Temple, the internal guards and the Imperial Clan Temple were interrogating the two palace maids. These two palace maids had been in the palace for 7 or 8 years. They were selected to enter the palace during the time of the former emperor. This meant that Meizong knew everything that happened in the palace during these 7 or 8 years. They even knew which concubine the former emperor slept with, how many times he slept with her, and how long he lasted each time. In the court, Zhang Chun patted the gavel and asked, "Who else do you have in Shendu? Tell me honestly so that you don't have to suffer the pain of soul-searching." The two palace maids lowered their heads and looked indifferent. They were not afraid of Zhang Chun's threat at all. Mr. Mei sighed and said, "You are also citizens of the Great Zhou. You are human women. Why do you work for the demon sect?" One of the palace maids looked up and sneered, "The demon sect was called by you. In our eyes, you are the demons." Mr. Mei shook his head and said to Li Mu, "It seems that they have been brainwashed by Meizong." Li Mu did not agree with Mr. Mei's words. He had been undercover in Meizong for a few months and knew Meizong's methods. Meizong would not brainwash the spies because those who could be brainwashed were usually not very bright. And those who were not very bright could not be spies. Meizong would not take them seriously at all. When they chose people, the first thing they had to do was to be good-looking. Secondly, they had to be smart. Those who chose to join the Meizong sect, other than those who harbored evil intentions, no matter if they were humans or demons, they would definitely hate the imperial court from the bottom of their hearts. The two palace maids did not cooperate at all, so Zhang Chun could only forcibly search their souls. The process of soul-searching was very painful. The two palace maids were mortals who had never cultivated. After Zhang Chun finished soul-searching, they fainted. Zhang Chun had a complicated expression on his face after he was done with the soul search. He was no longer as stern and unyielding as before. Mr. Mei asked, "Have you found their accomplices?" Zhang Chun shook his head and said, "No, they are in one-way contact. They don't know anything other than collecting information." Li Mu was familiar with Zhang Chun and knew that his expression was definitely not because he did not find any useful information. He looked at Zhang Chun and asked, "Is there anything else?" Zhang Chun sighed and said, "It's a sin." He used his magic to share the information he found with everyone. After a while, Li Mu knew the cause and effect of the matter. These two women were both from Zhejiang County. They were originally young ladies of a big family and had lived a carefree life. Later, they were abducted by the heretic practitioners and locked in a hidden underground palace. They were subjected to sexual abuse and became the cultivation furnaces for the cultivators. They lived in darkness for several months until the people of Meizong's sect found them. They killed the heretic practitioners and destroyed the underground palace. They saved the demon clans who were also being humiliated in the underground palace and saved them. After that, the two of them joined Meizong. They were good-looking and came from big families. After Meizong helped them reconstruct their bodies, they easily passed the selection of the late emperor and became palace maids. They had been hiding in the palace. The reason why they hated the imperial court was that the culprit who caused their miserable experience was the local county magistrate, an official of the imperial court. The miserable experience of those months buried an unresolvable hatred in their hearts. They naturally transferred this hatred to the Great Zhou court. In the court, Mr. Mei and Shangguanli did not speak, but their fists were clenched. The people of the Great Zhou were destroyed by these bastards. Zhang Chun sighed and asked, "How should we deal with these two?" According to the law, the two of them would definitely die if they went undercover in the palace of the Great Zhou. Li Mu thought for a while and said, "Let's lock them up first. If our spies are discovered, we'll exchange them." "That's a good idea." Zhang Chun waved his hand and said, "Take them away first." After leaving the Zhongxing temple, Li Mu thought about a problem. The human race and the demon race were not two incompatible races. The reason for such a serious conflict was largely related to the imperial court's attitude toward the demon race. Many heretical cultivation were worried that the imperial court would investigate, So they did not dare to attack the people of the Great Zhou. Therefore, they targeted the demons. The demon race did not have a country as powerful as the Great Zhou. The Great Zhou court also did not protect the demon race. Moreover, the demons were generally successful in cultivation and were more valuable than humans. Not only would the heretical cultivation kill the demon race without restraint, but even some righteous cultivators would kill the demon race for their souls and demon cores to cultivate in the name of killing demons and enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. If the imperial court treated the people and the demon race equally and protected the law-abiding demon race in the Great Zhou, the demons' hatred toward the Great Zhou would certainly weaken. The demons would cause less chaos everywhere, and the place would be more stable. It would also be beneficial for the unity of the people's hearts. In fact, when he was in Zhejiang County, Li Mu had already thought about this. If the Great Zhou court could do this, what reason would the Phantom Princess have to overthrow the imperial court? If they lost the righteousness, they would lose some. However, this decree was unprecedented in the history of dynasties. The resistance to its implementation would certainly be great. It was not something that could be taken for granted. He had to consider it thoroughly. In the Chang'e Palace, Li Mu was reading memorials while thinking about this matter. Zhou Yi leaned on the dragon throne and read. When she flipped the pages, she would sneak a glance at Li Mu. Ever since she found out that the vixen of the Thousand Fox Kingdom ordered her favorite official around like a servant, she felt unbalanced in her heart. As the Empress of the Great Zhou, she could not go to the Thousand Fox Kingdom to cause trouble for that vixen. However, what that vixen had, she had to have. What that vixen did not have, she also had to have. She admitted that she could not win against Lu. After all, she was Li Mu's wife. However, she was the empress of a country. She could not lose to a vixen. She put down the book and rubbed her shoulders. She said lightly, "After sitting for so long, my shoulders are sore." Shangguanli was about to step forward when Mr. Mei grabbed her wrist and said, "Ali, come with me for a moment. I have something important to tell you." Shangguanli was forcefully dragged out. Li Mu finished reading the last memorial. He put down his brush and sighed in his heart. Women were so pretentious. Even the Empress was no exception. She was a seventh realm cultivator. Even if she sat there for 10 days, half a month, or even 8 to 10 years, her shoulders would not ache at all, let alone sitting for less than an hour. Li Mu spent even more time reading memorials than she did. Although he was dizzy from reading them, his body did not feel tired at all. She only read books and planted flowers every day. What was so tiring about it? But then again, whether her body was tired or not was completely different from whether she felt comfortable rubbing her shoulders. Who didn't want to be waited on by others? The Empress reminded him that a few days ago, he was the one waiting on others. Now, it was time for him to enjoy himself. He would go back now and let Wan Wan and Xiao Bai massage his shoulders and legs. He would experience the joy of being a fantasy princess. Thinking of this, Li Mu could not wait any longer. He stood up and said, "I've finished reading the memorials. Your Majesty can take a look at them. I'll go back first." With that he turned and walked out of Chang'e Palace. At the entrance of Chang'e Palace, Mr. Mei looked at Li Mu in surprise. He asked, "Why did you come out?" Li Mu shrugged and said, "I've finished reading the memorials. I'm a little tired. When I go back, I'll let Xiao Bai and Wan Wan massage me." Mr. Mei looked at him blankly. Li Mu waved at the two of them and said, "See you later." Chapter 457. In order to avoid being criticized again, Li Mu did not stay in Chang'e Palace for long after he returned. This way, even if the demon sect still had spies in the palace, they would only think that the Empress thought highly of him and would often summon him to Chang'e Palace to discuss matters of state. They would not spread rumors that he had an affair with the Empress and was a gigolo she kept in the palace. In the Li residence, Wan Wan and Xiao Bai were in the front and back respectively. Li Mu lay comfortably on a chair, enjoying the service of their little hands. Although he was comfortable, Li Mu could not help but feel a trace of melancholy in his heart. The residence was too big and had countless rooms. There were only 3 of them, and they only slept in one room and one bed. The huge residence seemed especially cold and cheerless. In short, the residence lacked a mistress. Just as this thought arose, Li Mu's vision blurred, and a figure appeared in the courtyard. Xiao Bai's eyes curved as she giggled and said, "Sister Zhou, you're here?" Wanwan stared at a box in the Empress's hand and asked curiously, "Sister Zhou, what are you holding in your hand?" Zhou Yi handed the box to her and said, "This is a new type of pastry that the imperial chef developed. It tastes pretty good, try it." Wanwan did not have time to massage Li Mu's legs. She hugged the box and ran to the stone table with Xiao Bai, impatiently trying out the new pastry developed by the imperial chef. Li Mu, who had not yet reacted, was still lying comfortably on the chair. Zhou Yi glanced at him and asked, "Are you waiting for me to massage your legs and shoulders?" The Empress was standing, so Li Mu did not dare to lie down. He immediately flipped over and said, "Your Majesty, please." When the Empress lay down where he had been lying, Li Mu realized that the 2 of them were standing in an inappropriate position. The Empress was standing and he could not lie down. Otherwise, it would seem like he was waiting for the Empress to serve him. However, the Empress was lying down while he was standing. Some things could be seen clearly from a bird's eye view. Li Mu didn't even dare to lower his head. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Li Mu's mind. He walked behind the Empress and said, "Your Majesty, aren't your shoulders a bit sore? Why don't I give your Majesty a massage?" "Your Majesty's shoulder massaging technique is not bad," Zhou Yi said faintly. "You must have gotten familiar with that vixen when you were in Thousand Fox Country. Back in the palace, I didn't see you being so attentive to me. I didn't expect my subject to be trained by a vixen." Li Mu was startled and a thought flashed through his mind. The Empress was obviously jealous of Phantom Princess. When he was in Chengel Palace, he only wanted to come back and find Wanwan and Xiao Bai. He didn't realize that the Empress was hinting at him. This wasn't the first time Li Mu noticed that the Empress had a strong possessive desire for him. This didn't mean that the Empress had fallen in love with him. Possessiveness was human nature. She wasn't the only one who wanted to possess Li Mu. Li Mu also wanted to possess her. Not to mention anything else, if the Empress had another subject who was as good to him as she was to herself, Li Mu wouldn't feel comfortable in his heart. Li Mu secretly broke into a cold sweat for himself. Fortunately, he came to his senses early. If he persisted until night fell, he would inevitably be beaten up in his dreams. Zhou Yi looked quite domineering, but she was actually more of a woman than anyone else. She would never say what was on her mind. Instead, she would let Li Mu guess it himself. If he guessed it right, everyone would be happy. If he guessed wrong, she would vent her anger in his dreams. It must be because she didn't enjoy the same treatment as Phantom Princess. Her tone was as if she had drunk an entire jar of aged vinegar. Li Mu took the initiative to put his hands on her shoulders. He rubbed here and there, and finally calmed her down. She lay there comfortably and closed her eyes to rest. She didn't speak anymore. At a certain moment, Li Mu said softly, "There is an important matter that I would like to discuss with your Majesty." Zhou Yi closed her eyes and said, "Speak." Li Mu organized his words and said, "This time, when I was undercover in Qianhu country, I discovered something. The reason why most of the demons hate the Great Zhou and hate humans is because of the unfairness between humans and demons in the Great Zhou. When demons harm humans, they will be destroyed by the imperial court. However, humans can kill demons wantonly, take their souls, and steal their monster cores. They can even do crueler things to demons. This is actually the root of the conflict between humans and demons. If we want to improve the relationship between humans and demons and promote the stability of the counties, we can only pass the imperial court's legislation." Zhou Yi's eyes were still closed. She said, "Most of the courtiers and even the common people have an inexorable prejudice against demons. Many people will oppose this matter." Li Mu said, "I think that the people of the 36 counties are the people of the Great Zhou. In the Great Zhou, the demons who abide by the laws are also the people of the Great Zhou. Although the demons are not as numerous as the common people, they can develop intelligence or take human form. They all have cultivation, and the power they produce is far greater than that of the common people. If the demons in the Great Zhou are united, they will condense the Emperor's chi faster, and your majesty will be able to escape as soon as possible. Zhou Yi's eyes suddenly opened. She looked around and said, "Since you think it's right, then do it boldly. I will always be behind you, Morning Court." An official's spittle flew everywhere. Absurd, simply absurd. What does the life and death of the demons have to do with the court? The court is the court of the common people, not the court of the demons. If they even have to care about the matters of the demons, then how busy will the local officials be? How many cultivators make a living by killing demons? Won't the court become the enemy of those cultivators? A different voice said, "Lord Yan's words are wrong. In this way, the demons will certainly hate the court much less. It will be beneficial in easing the conflict between humans and demons." I agree. Humans and demons are all living creatures. If the demons are willing to abide by the laws, then the Great Zhou may be able to accept them. Our Great Zhou's celestial empire must have the magnanimity of a celestial empire. Another official stood up and said, "Lord Yan's words make sense. The counties can't even manage their own matters. How can they have the time to care about the demons?" Another person agreed. "This is the biggest joke in the world. Our human court is making decisions for the demons. How will the demon kingdom view us? How will the Shen kingdom and the Yong kingdom view us? Our Great Zhou will become the joke of all the other countries. The court is protecting the demons. This is simply unprecedented." I object. I also object. Once this topic was raised, it caused a strong reaction in the court. Although a few officials agreed at the beginning, they were quickly drowned out by voices of opposition. There were even officials who stood up and questioned, "Just whose suggestion was it? Stand up and let everyone see." Li Mu slowly walked out and said, "It was me." As he walked out, the voices of discussion in the court gradually quieted down. Finally, they completely disappeared. You could hear a pin drop. Although Li Mu often did not attend court for several months, no one dared to look down on him. Both the old and new factions combined had been defeated by Li Mu. The students of the academy had been arrogant for a while, but now they were as obedient as sheep. Even the Zhou clan and the Shao clan, after their successive defeats, had to avoid the sharp edge, not daring to oppose Li Mu directly. The official who had just asked Li Mu to stand up stood in a daze. He was completely stupefied. In this instant, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. It was over. He did not expect that the person he had attacked was Li Mu. After court, he would definitely suffer the revenge of this powerful official of the Great Zhou. The beautiful concubine he had just married would probably not be able to sleep for more than a few nights. The new house that he had just lived in for a year would also become someone else's after it was confiscated. He would probably have to sleep in the cemetery with excellent feng shui that he had chosen for his old father in his hometown, Nanjun. A moment later, the official wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and said seriously, "Lord Li's suggestion is truly wonderful. Not only can this move alleviate the conflict between humans and demons, it can also stabilize the various prefectures, and it can also subtly divide the demon kingdom. This official's respect for Lord Li is like a torrential river, endless and unending. It is also like an overflowing river, unable to be controlled once it starts flowing. With Lord Li in the imperial court, it is truly the blessing of the great Zhou dynasty and the common people." Another official who had objected looked at this person with disdain. He strode out and said with righteous indignation, "Demon race, so what if they are demons? Demons are also born and raised by their parents. As long as they are in the Great Zhou, they are the people of the Great Zhou. I have long disliked those cultivators with evil intentions. Uniting the demon race can strengthen the national strength of the Great Zhou. I strongly recommend that the Department of Worship recruit some demon experts. The various yamens should also eliminate discrimination and fully utilize the role of demons. Using demons to control demons can greatly reduce the pressure on the local yamens to govern the areas under their jurisdiction. The Ministry of Revenue can register these demons as demon citizens. The demon citizens are also the people of the Great Zhou and are protected by the laws of the Great Zhou. They also have to bear the responsibility of protecting the country. At some point, the officials in the court no longer objected to this matter. Instead, they began to make plans for the implementation of this matter. After brainstorming and discussing for a while, everyone unexpectedly discovered that the benefits of uniting the demon race seemed to far outweigh the disadvantages. It could even create a new structure that had never been seen since the establishment of the Great Zhou. Chapter 458. Li Mu thought that this proposal would be opposed by many, but he did not expect the court officials to be so reasonable. The officials of the various departments spoke one after another about the plan to incorporate the demons in the Great Zhou. They also put forward many constructive suggestions, many of which even Li Mu himself did not think of. After the court, these suggestions could be sorted out and modified, and then directly promulgated. Of course, there were some officials who expressed their concerns. The conflict between humans and demons had been going on for a long time. It was not something that could be easily resolved by promulgating a law. The common people had a natural fear of demons. This law might cause panic among the common people, which was not conducive to the unity of the people's hearts. This matter was of great importance. After the Hall of Secretaries drafted the regulations, the Minxia province did not immediately agree. Instead, they first spread the news and observed the reactions of the common people in Luoyang. After the news of this case spread out of the palace, it immediately caused widespread discussion among the common people. To be more precise, it caused widespread concern among the common people. Humans and demons were different. In the eyes of most people, demons were powerful and cruel. Even when adults scared children, they would be captured by demons if they disobeyed. What did the imperial court mean by this? On the streets of Luoyang, a group of people gathered. What? There's such a thing. If the imperial court is so free, why are they protecting those demons? Demons are always causing trouble and harming the common people. The government is not protecting the common people, but them? I wonder who came up with this bad idea. Could he be a spy sent by the demons? The imperial court should really investigate him, an insider said. I heard it was Lord Li who suggested it. Everyone asked, which Lord Li? That person said, of course it's young Lord Li. There were many officials in the imperial court with the surname Li, but there was only one person who could be called Lord Li by the common people. The person who suspected that the official who made the suggestion was a spy for the demons was stunned. Then he slapped his mouth and cursed, damn it, how could I suspect Lord Li? Since Lord Li suggested it, he must have his reasons for it. Someone said, it said that protecting the demons is to stop them from hating the imperial court. If the demons don't hate the imperial court, they naturally won't cause trouble and harm the common people. After everyone thought about it, they felt that what he said made sense. I see. Lord Li is really far-sighted, so Lord Li is still thinking for us, the common people. That's right. Do you think that Lord Li is the same as those fellows in the imperial court who do nothing? The people of Xin do trusted Li Mu unconditionally. After figuring out the reason behind this, the people started to talk about it. Actually, demons aren't that scary. They'll be the same as us even if they turn into humans. Maybe we already have demons around us. The books say that snake demons' legs are the best at clinging to people. Actually, I've wanted to try it for a long time. I want to see how seductive a vixen is. I wonder if there's any way for my cat to become a spirit. The officials of the Minxia province mixed in with the crowd to listen in on the situation. One of them clicked his tongue and asked, let's be frank, I really want to see the legs of a snake demon. Another person said expectantly, I wonder if the imperial court allows officials to marry demons. To be honest, I want to marry a fox spirit. I saved a fox 2 years ago. Last month, it cultivated into a human form and came to me to repay my kindness. The taste of a fox spirit is really unforgettable. The person beside her was puzzled. Didn't you say that it was a male fox? That person said, I didn't say it was a female either. The two of them chatted for a while and realized that they had seriously strayed from the topic. They were ordered to listen in on the situation of the people. The Lord Attendant wanted to know what the people thought about this matter. However, after walking 2 streets, they didn't hear much criticism. Instead, many people were discussing whether the snake demon's legs were clinging to people or whether the fox spirit was seductive. This actually revealed a very important piece of information. The people had great trust in Li Mu. What was certain was that if the same proposal was proposed by them or other officials, they would definitely be scolded to death by the people. However, if it was proposed by Li Mu, the result was completely different. He had completely won the trust of the people. The 2 of them sighed as they returned to the secretariat and reported what they had seen and heard. The left attendant sighed and said, "This kind of person is too scary." With his own strength, he hijacked the people's will. If he wholeheartedly serves the Great Zhou, it will be a blessing for the Great Zhou. If he has disloyalty, it will be a disaster for the Great Zhou. If the previous emperor was still alive, he would definitely not allow such a person to exist. The right attendant sighed and said, "But the empress is not the previous emperor. Of all the officials in the court, she only has eyes for Li Mu. She leaves all the court matters to him. Ever since Li Mu returned to Luoyang, the Chengel Palace no longer has a backlog of memorials," the left attendant said, "but I have to say that this person is indeed a great talent in governing the country." After 2 dynasties of decline, the Great Zhou was able to recover so quickly and even become stronger. It can almost be said that it is his work alone. The right attendant's eyes shone with a strange light. He said, "At first glance, the plan to take in the demon clan was a waste of the court's energy. But after careful consideration, it is simply wonderful. If the demon clan in the Great Zhou can be used by the court, the local counties will become unprecedentedly strong and cohesive. For this, even if we have to pay some price, it is worth it," the left attendant said. "Now I actually hope that Her Majesty can continue to sit on the throne. The Great Zhou has been reborn with great difficulty. If after another setback, the other countries will become disloyal again and the Demon Kingdom and Ghost Realm will take advantage of the situation to invade, the fate of the Great Zhou for hundreds of years will come to an end." The right attendant had a doubtful expression and asked, "What do you think Her Majesty is thinking?" Until now, she has not revealed any information about who she wants to pass the throne to. "I'm afraid that the Shao clan and the Zhou clan are not sure." The left attendant pondered for a moment and muttered, "Do you think there is another possibility?" The 2 of them looked at each other. Their minds were already connected. The following conversation was completely carried out through telepathy. The Li residence. The development of the matter was far smoother than Li Mu had imagined. Not only did the courtiers not show any overwhelming opposition, even though some of the commoners were panicking, they still believed in the court and Li Mu. This was due to the trust he had built up with them over the past 2 years. There was another reason that Li Mu hadn't thought of. Due to the popularity of strange stories from A Strange Story, many novel authors rushed to imitate the plot style of Strange Stories from A Strange Story. Thus, starting about a year ago, the story of a young man who had a fortuitous encounter and cultivated diligently, slaying demons and eliminating evils for the people, and finally becoming a powerhouse of a generation, was no longer popular with most readers. Men preferred the romance between human beings and demonic ghosts. Some of the works aimed at women were even more explicit and bold. Whether it was an unmarried girl or a married woman, they would more or less have 1 or 2 such books under their pillows or at the bottom of their dowry boxes. A snake demon's legs were the most clingy, and a fox demon's legs were the most seductive in bed. Jokes like these also came from these YY novels. It was true that fox demons were seductive. Xiaobai would often inadvertently seduce Li Mu until he felt hot all over and had to use the clear heart technique to resist. As for whether a snake demon's legs were the most clingy, Li Mu didn't know. In any case, the empress was quite clingy. Although he didn't live in Chengel Palace anymore, the empress treated this place as her home. When she was here, Li Mu had to carefully serve her. She lay on his chair, drank his tea, held his niece, and even let Li Mu massage her back and shoulders. Li Mu used to hope that he could replace Shangguan Li's position, and now he really did. In the past, it was she who served the empress, and now it was Li Mu. There was a knock on the door. Li Mu removed his hand from the Empress's body and walked to the door. Just as he opened the door, a green figure pounced on him. The girl in the green dress hooked her arms around Li Mu's neck and hung herself on him. Her two slender legs were tightly wrapped around Li Mu's waist. She happily said, "Uncle, my sister and I are here to seek shelter from you," Li Mu sighed in his heart. A snake demon's legs were indeed clingy. Hu Jiuqing didn't lie to him. Chapter 459. It was true that the snake demon's legs were the most clingy. Li Mu spent a lot of effort to remove Bai Tingxin from his body. After 2 years of not seeing each other, the two sisters had grown even more beautiful. One was wearing a white dress, while the other was wearing a green dress. Their figures were also slightly taller as they stood at the entrance of the Li residence. Li Mu looked around and asked, "Where are your parents?" Bai Tingxin said angrily, "They were traveling around the continent. They thought we were a burden, so they sent us back to the North County to cultivate. Sister said she missed you and insisted on coming here to find you. I could only follow her." Bai Tingxin twisted her ear and said angrily, "Who was the one who made a fuss about coming to the fairies' capital? How dare you talk about me?" Li Mu said helplessly, All right, come in first." This time, the White Demon King and his wife did not come. Only the two sisters came. Li Mu was secretly worried for them. These two nieces were really daring. Snake demons and fox demons were the favorite of those heretical cultivation. Even Fifth Realm experts were often captured, let alone these two little demons who had just condensed their demon cores. They were lucky to have come here safely. Bai Tingxin walked into the courtyard first and asked, "Are the ants at home?" Li Mu said, "No, they are at Mount Baiyan." That's good." Bai Tingxin was secretly delighted. She muttered softly. Then she was stunned and asked, "They are?" Li Mu did not explain too much. He only said, "You have 2 ants now." Bai Tingxin looked at the other beautiful woman standing in the courtyard and said blankly, "Is this 3rd ant?" Li Mu said with a serious expression, "Don't be rude. This is Her Majesty, the Empress of the Great Zhou." Zhou Yi only glanced at Bai Tingxin indifferently. She was so scared that she hid behind Li Mu and looked at the Empress with frightened eyes. She grew up in the mountains and was like a little princess at home. She could get whatever she wanted. She did not feel anything about being called the Empress of the Great Zhou. She only vaguely felt that this beautiful woman was very powerful. She was so powerful that she could crush her with her little finger. Li Mu walked to the Empress and introduced, "Your Majesty, these 2 are the daughters of my sworn brother. The wild demons do not know the rules. Please forgive them, Your Majesty." Wan Wan and Xiao Bai also ran over from the side and said happily, "Sister White Snake, Sister Green Snake, you are here." Li Mu felt that the house was too quiet just now. Now it was so lively that it gave him a headache. Wan Wan and Xiao Bai were not talkative. Xin used to be lively, but after condensing the Yao core, she gradually became a lady snake. Only Tingxin was crazy. Li Mu thought that she would restrain herself after condensing the Yao core. He did not expect that after her cultivation improved, she became more lively. Even Wan Wan and Xiao Bai were affected. However, there were benefits to being noisy. At least the house was more lively. Because of the sisters, Li Mu added a few more dishes. After dinner, Li Mu gave them a stack of banknotes. Wan Wan and Xiao Bai took them to the streets to sweep. Demons from remote places needed some time to adapt to Shen Du for the first time. When Li Mu was washing the dishes in the kitchen, the Empress stood in the courtyard and said, "Your nieces are not ordinary snake demons." Li Mu explained while washing the dishes, "Your Majesty, their father is from the snake race, and their mother is from the dragon race. They have half of the dragon race's bloodline." Zhou Yi said, "No wonder you don't hate the demon race. There are more demons in your family than humans." Li Mu explained awkwardly, "Humans are divided into good and bad people. Demons are also divided into good and evil demons. They cannot be lumped together." Little Bai Wan Wan had gone shopping with the Bai sisters. She probably wouldn't return until nightfall. The Empress rolled up her sleeves and brought Li Mu back to the palace. There were still some details to be discussed in the Imperial Secretariat regarding the incorporation of the demonic beasts. With the help of the officials, the general policy was formulated. After reading it, Li Mu found that there were no problems. He went to Chang'e Palace and continued to help the Empress read the memorials. After reading a few memorials, Li Mu saw the one from Zhejiang County. After the case of the second-rank prince of Zhejiang was exposed, his followers were either banished to the army or exiled. As for the second-rank prince of Zhejiang, he was a member of the Shao royal family. If they wanted to determine his life or death, they would have to go through the procedures of the Ministry of Justice, the Ancestral Temple, and the 3 provinces. They would have to carefully examine the evidence of his crimes. Li Mu frowned when he flipped open the letter and read its contents. The memorial said that Zhejiang County's king had committed suicide in prison. During this time, he had been imprisoned in Zhejiang County's prison. 3 days ago, the jailer found him dead in his cell. The cause of death was the dissipation of his primordial spirit. After the investigation, the conclusion was that Zhejiang County's king knew that he would die for his crimes. To avoid suffering, he committed suicide. Since he would die sooner or later, he would not waste the imperial court's resources by doing it himself. Li Mu put down the memorial and stopped paying attention to the matter. At the same time, Divine Capital's southern court, King Ping's residence. There were 7 princes in the Divine Capital. King Ping was the most senior among them. He was also the pillar of the royal family and the old party. In King Ping's study, Xiao Ziyu said slowly, "The 3 provinces have all approved the proposal to incorporate the demons in the Great Zhou. Any demon that enters the Great Zhou will be protected by the laws of the Great Zhou. Killing demons is the same as slaughtering the citizens of the Great Zhou. The prefectures and the consecration department can't just sit by and watch." King Ping said calmly, "I understand. You may leave." Xiao Ziyu cupped his fists and left. In the shadows of the study, a black shadow gradually formed and whispered, "Master, I've dealt with Xiao Heng according to your instructions." King Ping snorted and said, "You can't do anything right, but you're good at spoiling things. You almost ruined everything." The black shadow said slowly, "If demons are going to become citizens of the Great Zhou, it won't be so easy to attack them in the future. We must stop the imperial court from pushing this." King Ping waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Let's not provoke that person. We've lost 3 years of fighting with the Zhou clan. Why don't we fight with him for 3 months? It's better not to provoke him. When he hits a wall, he'll give up." When Li Mu returned from the palace, Wan Wan and Xiao Bai had already returned. The sisters, Yin Xin and Ting Xin, were choosing their rooms. Li Mu asked, "Does Brother Bai know that you've come to the Divine Capital?" Bai Ting Xin snorted and said, "He only has eyes for my mother. He can't be bothered with us." Li Mu shook his head and said, "No matter what, we still have to tell him." Bai Ting Xin pouted. "If I don't, he'll get the other uncles to capture us." Li Mu said, "Be good. I'll tell him when the time comes." Bai Ting Xin reluctantly took out a conch. After activating it, she said a few words to the conch and then handed it to Li Mu. Li Mu took the conch. Li Mu heard the White Demon King's apologetic voice. "Third brother, I'm really sorry. These 2 girls have troubled you. I'll get someone to bring them back in a few days." Li Mu smiled and said, "No need. If they're willing to stay here, then they can cultivate here. Staying here is beneficial to their cultivation." The White Demon King laughed and said, "Then I'll leave it to you. If they're disobedient, you can discipline them on my behalf. Especially Ting Xin. Discipline her when you need to. Don't spoil her." After exchanging a few more words with the White Demon King, Li Mu returned the conch to Bai Ting Xin. She hugged Li Mu's arm and shook it. She said obediently, "I'll definitely listen to you, uncle." Li Mu pulled his hand out of her embrace. It was indeed better for them to stay here than to cultivate in the north region. The last time they parted, Wan Wan's cultivation was still very low. Now she was the same as them. Xiao Bai had far surpassed them. He didn't dare to say too much, but it shouldn't be a problem for them to both enter the 5th realm after staying with Li Mu for a year. Moreover, the demon clan's heavenly book that Li Mu obtained from the demon emperor's cave abode happened to be useful. There was a complete cultivation method of the snake clan in it. Li Mu could also cultivate this cultivation method. However, he was a human after all. He could only cultivate to the 5th or 6th realm. Only a true snake clan member could unleash the power of the snake clan's cultivation method. Not long ago, when Li Mu pretended to be a snake demon and was undercover in the Thousand Fox City, Phantom Princess rewarded him with a 5th realm snake demon pill in order to improve his cultivation. He had been keeping it. Li Mu stretched out his hand, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. Bai Tingxin asked curiously, "What's this?" Li Mu said, "This is..." He had just said 2 words when he suddenly realized that there was only 1 demon pill, but his nieces had 2. Who should he give it to? Both of them were flesh and blood. As an elder, if he favored one and discriminated against the other would feel terrible. Li Mu thought for a moment and asked, "Look at this jade bottle. Isn't it beautiful?" Chapter 460. The jade bottle floating in Li Mu's hand was sparkling and translucent. It was indeed very beautiful. But what was even more beautiful was the thumb-sized golden demon core in the jade bottle. The jade bottle could not isolate the aura of the 5th realm snake demon core. The 2 sisters looked at the jade bottle in Li Mu's hand and swallowed their saliva at the same time. The green snake's reaction was even faster. She grabbed the jade bottle from Li Mu's hand and asked, "Uncle, is this for me?" What else could Li Mu say? He nodded and said, "This is a snake demon core that I accidentally obtained. Take it and refine it. It can improve your cultivation." "Thank you." Bai Tingxin's face revealed a bright smile. Li Mu once again felt the strength of her slender legs. Not only that, she also took the opportunity to kiss Li Mu's face. If Li Mu did not dodge quickly, she would have kissed Li Mu's mouth. Li Mu frowned and said, "No manners. In the future, don't do this." Looking at her blinking innocently, Li Mu couldn't say what he wanted to say next. After all, she was just a snake demon without much life experience. She was his niece. What bad intentions could she have? If he said too much, it would make Li Mu look like a dirty person. Li Mu waved his hand and said, "Okay, go back to your rooms and rest. I also need to rest." After Li Mu left, the 2 sisters went back to their rooms. Their rooms were in the same courtyard, one in the east and one in the west. Bai Yinxin returned to her room and sat by the table. She rested her chin on one hand and a smile appeared on her face. Suddenly, there was movement at the window. A figure slipped in through the window. She glanced at her sister and said unhappily, "Why aren't you sleeping? What are you doing here?" Bai Tingxin put the jade bottle on the table and said, "This is for you." Bai Yinxin glanced at it and shook her head. "You should refine it. Your cultivation is low." Bai Tingxin shook her head and said, "My cultivation is low anyway. After refining it, I won't be able to advance much. Why don't you increase your cultivation to protect me?" As for Mu, she kissed Bai Yinxin's face, then slipped to the window and said, "I'm going back to sleep, sister." The next day, when Li Mu woke up, Wan Wan and Xiao Bai had already prepared breakfast. After the meal, Li Mu called the 2 sisters to the courtyard. He stretched out his hand, and with a flash of white light, a light soft armor appeared on his hand. She handed the soft armor to Bai Yinxin and said, "Wear this immortal robe." Bai Yinxin said softly, "Thank you, uncle." Li Mu handed her a sword and said, "Take this sword as well." The sword he gave to White Snake was also given to him by Phantom Princess. This sword's grade was not low. It was once owned by a snake expert of Meizong sect. Even the sword's body was in the shape of a snake, which was suitable for her. Yesterday, the demon core was given to Green Snake, and these 2 magic treasures were given to White Snake. It showed that Li Mu was impartial and did not favor anyone. Seeing her sister's immortal robe and immortal sword, Bai Tingxin looked at Li Mu expectantly. However, Li Mu did not look at her at all. Li Mu continued to say to Bai Yinxin, "Come with me. I'll teach you a few more techniques of the demon race." Seeing Li Mu leave with her sister, Bai Tingxin stood in the courtyard and pouted. Tears were rolling in her eyes. The demon core was her sister's. The immortal robe was her sister's, and the magic treasures were her sister's. Even the techniques were only taught to her sister. She had nothing. How could he bully her like this? Boo-hoo, she had never been wronged like this since she was young. Her tears fell on the spot. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Li Mu heard the crying and walked back. He was extremely surprised and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Bai Tingxin wiped her tears with one hand and pointed at him with the other. She said sadly, "You're biased." Li Mu felt even more wronged and asked, "How am I biased?" Bai Tingxin said, "You gave her immortal robe, magic treasures, and even taught her techniques." "I don't have anything," Li Mu was stunned and said, "Didn't I give you the demon core?" Bai Tingxin felt wronged and said, "I've already given it to her." Li Mu still underestimated the relationship between the two sisters. It was not that he did not have good things, but the problem was the reasonable distribution. He did not want the two sisters to think that he was biased towards one of them. Li Mu said helplessly, "Then you come too." He gave the two sisters one immortal robe and one magic treasure each. Last time at Mount Baiyun, the 6 sects were plundered. Lu Hanyan and Li Qin kept what they could use and gave the rest to Li Mu. His current wealth might not be as good as the Empress, but compared to some small sects, it was far more. The largest courtyard at the back of the Li residence was where Li Mu used to practice auxiliary divine arts. Here, he could not practice powerful attacks such as thunder and sword techniques, but he could practice auxiliary techniques such as invisibility and transfiguration. Many times, these auxiliary techniques could play a greater role. Li Mu walked to the lawn and said to Bai Yinxin, "What kind of mental cultivation method are you cultivating now?" Excluding external objects, the speed of cultivation depended on the cultivation method. Although the qi refinement of Haotian Taoism was common, it was also a top cultivation method. It was just that Haotian Taoism did not hide it, and Buddhism also had its own sutras. In comparison, the demon race could not compare with humans in terms of cultivation. It was very rare for birds and beasts to have spiritual intelligence. They could only rely on their instincts to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and their cultivation speed was very slow. Although the two sisters were born with a golden spoon in their mouths and had cultivated mental cultivation methods since they were young, their cultivation method was not the most suitable for them. Bai Yinxin told Li Mu the cultivation method of the two sisters. Li Mu found that their cultivation was actually just ordinary qi refinement. It seemed that the cultivation method of the snake race had been lost, or no one had comprehended it from the heavenly book. Li Mu looked at Bai Yinxin and said, "Sit down cross-legged. From today onwards, you will cultivate according to the method I taught you." Bai Yinxin did not ask anything and obediently sat down cross-legged. Under Li Mu's signal, she slowly stretched out her hands. Li Mu sat cross-legged in front of her and connected his palms with hers. He guided the mana in his body into hers and circulated it through a special path. The cultivation method of the snake race was very simple. There was only one way from the first realm to the 9th realm. It was far less complicated than the fox races. Each tale had its own cultivation method, and even the heavenly book had its own page. Bai Yinxin circulated her mana according to the method Li Mu taught her. Just as Li Mu withdrew his hands, Bai Yinxin impatiently sat down cross-legged and said, "It's my turn, it's my turn." She casually lifted the hem of her skirt, revealing 2 smooth, jade-like calves. Li Mu pulled the hem of her skirt down and completely covered her body before his palms touched hers. Bai Yinxin took the opportunity to insert her fingers into Li Mu's fingers. The 2 palms connected and became 10 fingers interlocked. Li Mu glared at her and said, "Behave yourself." Bai Yinxin pouted and said, "Hold it tighter like this." Li Mu ignored her and closed his eyes. He channeled his mana and quickly circulated it through her body. He said, "Follow the path of my mana in your body and circulate it once." Bai Yinxin said embarrassedly, "Uncle, I didn't remember." "Do it again." Li Mu had no choice but to channel his mana into her body again and circulate it through her body. "I forgot again." "Do it again." "I remember less than half this time." "More than half, just a little bit more." Helping others was a very taxing task. After a few times, Li Mu powerlessly laid on the grass. Sweat seeped out of his forehead as his chest heaved up and down. He said, I can't do it anymore. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Bai Yinshin pulled him up and said, one more time, one last time. Chapter 461. In the end, Li Mu was forced by the little green snake to do it again. Then he lay on the grass and did not want to move anymore. The White Demon King couple were rather content. They wandered the world and lived the life Li Mu wanted to live, but they gave their daughter to him. Li Mu not only had to take care of their food and clothing, he also had to worry about their cultivation. Fortunately, Bai Tingxin finally remembered this last time and began to cultivate according to the new Heart Sutra like her sister. The two sisters sat cross-legged on the grass with their eyes closed, but their faces gradually revealed a shocked expression. They could clearly feel that the surrounding spiritual qi of the world was surging into their bodies at an extremely fast speed. It was several times faster than their usual cultivation speed. This meant that their cultivation speed in the future would also increase by several times. This kind of Heart Sutra seemed to be tailor-made for the snake race. After circulating her mana for a cycle, Bai Tingxin opened her eyes and stared straight at Li Mu. She asked, Uncle, are you a snake like us? Other than the snake race, she could not think of anyone else who could create this kind of cultivation Heart Sutra. Li Mu knocked her head. What are you talking about? Impudent. Bai Tingxin gently twisted her body and slid to Li Mu's side. She bit her lower lip and said softly, I was wrong. Li Mu got up from the grass and said, You two take your time cultivating. I still have things to do. If there's anything you don't understand, ask me. Before Bai Tingxin slid into his arms, Li Mu hurriedly left the courtyard. She used to be angry with Ti. After not seeing her for such a long time, her anger had gotten worse. Moreover, she was intentionally or unintentionally teasing him. Li Mu had to be on guard against her. Different from her sister, this green snake did not care about the things that humans did. What etiquette, what shame, what forbidden love, she probably did not have such awareness at all. Early the next morning, Li Mu arrived at the Changel Palace. The Secretariat had already drafted the memorial establishing the Great Zhou Demon Registry. Furthermore, it had been reviewed and approved by the sect. In the end, as long as the Empress Jade seal was stamped, it could be handed over to the Secretariat for specific implementation. Inside the hall, Mr. Mei looked at Li Mu and asked, What did you do yesterday? Why are you so pale and weak? Li Mu sighed and said, Don't mention it, the two snakes at home are too clingy. Yesterday my mana was drained by them and I almost couldn't get out of bed in the morning. Zhou Yi and Shangguan Li, who were reading, suddenly looked at Li Mu. Mr. Mei was both embarrassed and angry. He said, Bastard, this is His Majesty's bedchamber. Don't say anything. Li Mu explained, Yesterday I taught them a new cultivation method and helped them cultivate more than 10 times. My mana and energy were all exhausted. What were you thinking? Mr. Mei was stunned. So that's what happened? Li Mu asked in return. What did you think it was? Mr. Mei said awkwardly, I thought so too. On the side, Zhou Yi and Shangguan Li also retracted their gazes. Li Mu only just realized that although he was just stating facts, if someone's mind was filled with nonsense all day long, it was easy to create ambiguity. However, he did not expect that the Empress, Mr. Mei, and Shangguan Li, these three people's bodies were purer than the other, but their minds were dirtier than the other. What were they thinking in their minds just now? They were all red in the face and ears. The Empress' neck was even covered with a light pink color. After this small episode, the atmosphere of the entire Changel Palace became awkward. The three people's eyes kept glancing at Li Mu. Li Mu felt uncomfortable all over. After reading a few memorials, he said to the Empress, Your Majesty, I'm not feeling well today. I'll go back first. Zhou Yi nodded and said, Go ahead. As soon as Li Mu left, Mr. Mei complained, He didn't say it clearly. How would I know what he meant? There's a new mistress in his house. I thought he kidnapped 2 snakes from somewhere. Shangguan Li glanced at her and said, There's nothing wrong with what he said. It's your mind that's not pure. Mr. Mei looked at her and asked, Your mind is pure. If your mind is pure, why are you blushing? Shangguan Li was speechless for a moment. She explained, My face is already red. Besides, your majesty is blushing too. Zhou Yi stood up and said, Changle Palace is a bit hot. I'll go take a walk in the Imperial Garden. After returning home, there was nothing to do. Li Mu was bored, so he checked on the cultivation of the girls. Wanwan didn't care about cultivation. She mainly focused on eating, playing, and cultivating. Xiaobai wanted to become stronger and find the enemy who killed Granny to avenge her. She looked like she was eating and playing with Wanwan, but she was actually cultivating seriously in private. If she didn't take the initiative, no matter how much resources Li Mu provided her, she wouldn't have been able to reach the 5th level so quickly. Li Mu would remind them about their cultivation every few days. The new Bai sisters were the ones that Li Mu had to pay more attention to recently. They had changed their cultivation methods. At the beginning of their cultivation, they would definitely encounter many problems. In addition to the cultivation method, Li Mu also taught them a few powerful snake clan abhijna. Snakes were cold-blooded and were naturally good at hiding. At the same time, they were very sensitive to heat and smells. They were also natural tracking experts. In addition, the snake clan's poison techniques were something that even high-level cultivators would be wary of. Although the two sisters looked sweet, they were actually more poisonous than the other. In the natural world, the more beautiful an animal or plant was, the more likely it was to be poisonous. Li Mu didn't forget that Wu Bo was almost poisoned to death by Yinxin. If he was really poisoned, other than antidote pills, any Fulu talisman would be useless. As a human, Li Mu could learn about 50 to 60% of some demon clan abhijna. However, even if he was squeezed dry, he wouldn't be able to squeeze out a drop of poison. However, this didn't mean that Li Mu couldn't teach them. In terms of theoretical knowledge, he wasn't afraid of anyone. Li Mu was teaching them how to turn the poison into a mist and then condense it into a poison arrow to cause an area attack. Bai Yinxin learned quickly. In just an hour, she was already very proficient. Li Mu walked to Bai Tingxin and said, It's your turn. Go all out and attack me with the spell I just taught you. Bai Tingxin shook her head and said, But what if I hurt Uncle? Li Mu glanced at her and said, I won't blame you even if you hurt me. If you can hurt me, I can promise you one more thing. Bai Tingxin said excitedly, You said it. Pinky swear. Li Mu stretched out his little finger and hooked it with her white finger. Bai Tingxin retreated to the side and spat out a cloud of poison mist from her mouth. Soon, it surrounded Li Mu. In the poison mist, one couldn't see anything in front of them. An undetectable sound of wind breaking came from the poison mist. Li Mu slightly leaned his body and dodged a poison arrow. In the poison mist, poison arrows were constantly shot from all directions. Li Mu tilted his head and lifted his feet to dodge the poison needles. He always locked onto a breath in the poison mist. At a certain moment, when several poison arrows were shot, Li Mu's figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. He appeared beside the breath and stretched out his hand to grab it. A long object was caught in Li Mu's hand. Then, a trace of doubt appeared in Li Mu's eyes. Even if she revealed her true form, it wouldn't be so thin and hard. Li Mu withdrew his hand and found that he was holding the sword he gave Bai Tingxin. Her emerald green shirt was hanging on the sword. Then, a head quietly appeared beside his wrist and gently bit his wrist. Li Mu felt a sharp pain in his wrist. Then, his whole body began to feel numb. His legs went soft and he fell into Bai Tingxin's arms. Bai Tingxin hugged him and said with a smile, Uncle, I won. Li Mu never thought that he would be pecked in the eye by a wild goose all day long. He played with snakes all day long and finally got his wrist bitten by a snake. Bai Tingxin was smart enough to use the concealment technique. He taught her to hide her breath. With the cover of the poison mist, she deceived Li Mu. Then, when he thought that victory was in his hands, she gave him the final blow. This time, Li Mu was indeed careless. On the one hand, he underestimated the enemy too much. Now, even if he was facing a powerhouse in Dongxian, As long as he hadn't been in Dongxian for many years or was half a step into the upper realm like the slovenly Taoist priest, he could fight. He didn't believe that he would fall in the hands of a little snake demon who had just condensed a monster core. On the other hand, she was Li Mu's niece. Li Mu's trust in her made him not treat her as a real enemy. Various reasons caused him to fail in front of the two sisters and lose face. Now, he was still lying in Bai Tingxin's arms. Li Mu suppressed the snake venom with his magic power and stood up. Just as he was about to throw an antidote into his mouth, he was stopped by Bai Tingxin. She grabbed Li Mu's wrist and said, "The antidote can't be removed completely. Let me help you." Li Mu asked, "How are you going to remove it?" Bai Tingxin licked her red lips and a trace of shyness appeared in her eyes. She said, "My saliva can be removed. I'll feed you." Li Mu shook off her hand and said, "It's just snake venom. How can it stump me? I'll force it out myself." With that, he strode to his room. Bai Tingxin looked at her sister with dissatisfaction and said, "Tingxin, you're too much. How can you bite him? But are you heartbroken?" Bai Tingxin rolled her eyes and said, "He asked me to do my best. Besides, I wanted to detoxify him, but he didn't let me." "You're still talking." Bai Tingxin retracted her head. Most of the time, she was still afraid of her sister. Her voice was no longer as confident as before. She whispered, "He won't eat my saliva. I'll let him drink my blood, okay?" In the room, Li Mu sat cross-legged on the bed with a worried look on his face. He didn't know if it was because she had the bloodline of the dragon race, but the snake venom was so overbearing. Although it couldn't do anything to Li Mu had a hard time removing it. Even if he used an antidote, there would still be residual poison. It would take him at least a few days to remove it. There was a knock on the door. Bai Tingxin said, "Uncle, I'm here to detoxify you. If you don't want to use your saliva, you can use something else." Li Mu had already said that. If he compromised now, his dignity as an elder would be gone. How could he discipline them in the future? He said faintly, "No need. I'll remove all the poison in 15 minutes at most. You can continue to cultivate." Bai Tingxin said, "Oh," and left in disappointment. Li Mu got down from the bed. He knew the 4 heavenly books and knew more about the snake race than any snake in the world. How could he be helpless against the poison of a small green snake? A moment later, in the imperial garden of the palace. Li Mu looked at the Empress awkwardly and said, "Your Majesty, I was bitten by a snake." Zhou Yi frowned and said, "The 2 snakes in your house?" Li Mu said, "She was careless. The snake venom is very overbearing. I can't remove it in a short time, so I came to your Majesty." Zhou Qiong was deep in thought. She was wondering under what circumstances Li Mu would be bitten by the snake demon at home. Where was he hurt? Was it his tongue or some other place? She looked at Li Mu and asked, "Where are you hurt?" Li Mu pulled up his sleeves, revealing 2 rows of small wounds on his wrists. Zhou Yi's face relaxed a little and said faintly, "Give me your hand." Li Mu reached out his hand. Zhou Yi held his hand. Li Mu felt a majestic mana invading his body. A few drops of white liquid flew out from the wound. At the same time, the discomfort in his body disappeared completely. After removing the snake venom from his body, Li Mu returned home quietly. Xiao Bai, Wan, and the sisters Yinxin and Tingxin were playing cards in the yard. Li Mu turned invisible and swaggered across the yard. Li Mu could use ordinary invisibility in front of them. With their cultivation, they couldn't find him at all. Bai Tingxin played a card, then looked at Wan and said, "Wan, it's your turn." Oh. Wan came back to her senses and saw Bai Tingxin's card. She pushed down her own card and said, "I won." Li Mu went through the wall and returned to the room. He tidied up his clothes, opened the door, and walked back to the front yard. Bai Tingxin had lost several times in a row and had long wanted to find an excuse to slip away. When she saw Li Mu walk out of the room, she immediately trotted over and looked around him. She said disappointedly, "You really solved it?" Li Mu glanced at her and asked, "You seem very disappointed?" Bai Tingxin's gaze wandered and she smiled guiltily. "No, how could I?" She quickly looked at Li Mu again and asked, You said that if I can beat you, you will agree to one of my conditions. Does it still count? Li Mu nodded and said, Of course it counts. Bai Tingxin said, Then I'm going to say it now. Li Mu was already prepared to lose a lot of money. He said, Say it. Bai Tingxin said, Marry me. In the courtyard, Bai Yinxin was speechless. Wanwan and Xiao Bai stood up nervously. Li Mu thought he heard wrong and asked again, What did you say? Bai Tingxin said, Marry me. Li Mu said, This joke is not funny. Bai Tingxin said with a serious face, I'm not joking. Li Mu also became serious, I'm your uncle. If you do this again, I'll tell your father. Bai Tingxin was not worried at all and said, Tell him. My father said that love should be free and should not care about the prejudice of the world. When he was with my mother, everyone was against it, but they still got together. Moreover, they have us. He often encourages us. We are demons, so we don't care about the things of humans. He doesn't care if you call him big brother or father-in-law. Like father, like daughter. Li Mu finally knew why Bai Tingxin's personality was like that. He could no longer persuade her from an ethical point of view. He thought about it and said, But I already have a wife. Bai Tingxin pointed at Wanwan and Xiao Bai who were not far away and said, You still have them. This is not your excuse. Li Mu opened his mouth and finally looked at Bai Yinxin and said helplessly, You have to control your sister. Chapter 462. Bai Yinxin walked over and said helplessly, Tingxin, don't talk nonsense all day. Bai Tingxin was unconvinced. I'm not talking nonsense. Dad said that if you like someone, you have to say it out loud. Is it wrong to like someone? Li Mu was extremely suspicious of what his big brother, White Demon King, had taught his daughter. If she could use half of this thought on cultivation, she would not be at her current cultivation level. Since the hard method did not work, Li Mu could only use the soft method. He looked at Green Snake and said earnestly, Tingxin, when it comes to love, both parties have to love each other. It can't be forced. Bai Tingxin understood what he meant and asked, You don't like me? Li Mu nodded and said, I like you because you're my niece, but I hope you can understand that this kind of like isn't between a man and a woman. Bai Tingxin was unconvinced. Why don't you like me? Am I not beautiful enough? Li Mu looked at Xiao Bai. Bai Tingxin looked back and did not refute. Even if she was confident in her appearance, she could not go against her conscience and say that she was prettier than Xiao Bai. She took a deep breath and asked again, Am I not obedient enough? Li Mu looked at Wanwan. Bai Tingxin lowered her head again and was silent for a long time. She still did not give up and asked, Are my legs not long enough and not clingy enough? Don't you men like this? Li Mu looked at Bai Yinxin. Among the 4 people in the yard, she was not as beautiful as Su Bai, not as obedient as Wanwan, and not as long as her sisters. Little Green Snake finally fell silent and returned to her room without a word. Not long after, Bai Yinxin walked in and sat down beside her. She sighed softly and said, Don't mess around anymore. Bai Tingxin said, I'm not messing around. Bai Yinxin looked at her and asked, Do you really want to be your own aunt? Bai Tingxin did not care at all. What's wrong with that? If you like someone, you have to say it out loud. This is what Dad taught me. Why don't I ask Dad to cut ties with him? Bai Yinxin was stunned for a moment before she asked, Is that okay? Bai Tingxin smiled and said, See, sister, you think so too, don't you? Bai Yinxin immediately became serious. Of course not, Bai Tingxin said. Anyway, I want to. I'll tell Dad. She took out the spirit snail and looked at her sister, asking in confusion, Why didn't you stop me? Bai Yinxin snorted and said, You have grown up and have your own thoughts. I can't control you all the time. Do whatever you want. Li Mu's room. Ever since Yin Xian and Ting Xian came, Li Mu didn't let Xiao Bai and Wanwan sleep with him. In front of the younger generation, he had to be more careful. He knew that he had always been soft-hearted, but being soft-hearted would only lead to deeper entanglements. So this time, he hardened his heart and clearly told that little Green Snake that he had no such thoughts towards her, and told her to give up as soon as possible. Although it was somewhat cruel, he had to do it. In order to prevent her from taking advantage of him, Li Mu had to avoid her for the next 2 days. In the morning, he didn't eat breakfast at home. He went to Changle Palace early to have breakfast with the Empress. He ate 3 meals a day with the Empress. At night, he read memorials in Changle Palace and only returned home a moment before the palace gates closed. For the great show, he worked day and night, forgetting to eat and sleep. His diligence had already surpassed Emperor Wen. If he was the emperor, the future generations would definitely evaluate him as the master of the Great Zhou's revival and the first wise ruler in the world. Unfortunately, he wasn't. He worked so hard, and his good reputation was all taken by the Empress. In any case, they were going to be neighbors in the future. As a family, Li Mu didn't care too much about these things. None of the vows he made to the Empress had been fulfilled. There was still a long way to go before he could retire. Although the tributes from the other countries temporarily intimidated them, it was only intimidating. It was impossible for them to directly bow down to the Great Zhou. The Ghost Realm and the Yao Kingdom were just as usual. As for capturing a dragon to be the Empress's mount, there was no sign of it. Li Mu sighed in his heart. This kind of thing couldn't be done one generation after another. The Empress wanted him to work for a lifetime. Today, he stayed at Changle Palace until very late and had dinner with the Empress. Zhou Yi looked at Li Mu with surprise and asked, "Why have you become so diligent these days?" Li Mu said, "The Great Zhou is currently plagued by internal and external troubles. The people's faith has stagnated. The Yao Kingdom and the Ghost Realm are eyeing us covetously. The southern countries are also waiting to laugh at us. This subject is deeply worried." Zhou Yi said indifferently, "Tell the truth." As expected, he couldn't fool the Empress. Li Mu could tell the truth. The reason he stayed at Changle Palace for so long was that there was a snake at home that wanted to eat him. Li Mu sighed and said, "This big brother of mine has really spoiled his daughter. How old is she? She says that love is free and shouldn't care about the prejudice of the world. Does she know what love is?" Zhou Yi thought for a moment and said, "I think that what she said is quite reasonable." Li Mu didn't show anything on his face, but he was already mocking the Empress in his heart. She only had an arranged marriage in name. What the hell did she know about love? Zhou Yi's face darkened. "What did you say?" Li Mu looked up and said blankly, "This subject didn't say anything." Zhou Yi said, "You said it in your heart." Li Mu said firmly, "This subject didn't." No matter how powerful the Empress was, she couldn't read minds. Putting aside the fact that she was only at the 7th level, she couldn't even do that at the 9th level. As long as he refused to admit it, what could she do to him? Zhou Yi couldn't do anything to Li Mu since she didn't have anything to use against him. She asked, "Then tell me, what is love?" Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "There will never be an answer to this question. Everyone has their own answer. However, when a person wants to be with another person at all times, to be happy when together, to feel sad when apart, and to feel happy just by seeing her, this should be love." Zhou Yi was stunned. Then she asked, "Isn't this possessiveness?" Li Mu said slowly, "Possessiveness is human nature. Friends will also have it. However, possessiveness and possessiveness are not the same. Whether it is the possessiveness of love or some other kind of possessiveness, you have to ask your own heart." Under Li Si's influence, Li Mu felt that he also had the demeanor of a master of love. The Empress fell into deep thought after hearing his words. This was normal. For a woman who had never experienced love, love was indeed something difficult to understand. After thinking for a while, the Empress suddenly looked at Li Mu and asked, "So, you and Lu Hanyan, Li Qing, Wan Wan, and Xiao Bai all have feelings for each other?" This question really stumped Li Mu. If he said that it was all love, it would be an insult to love. Love was loyal. Liang Shanbua and Zhu Yingtai, White Snake and Su Xian, those who were truly unswerving and unswerving were true love. Li Mu was at most a lecher. As expected, the person who understood him the most was still Hu Jiao. He sighed and said to the Empress, "This subject is just a lecher." Zhou Yi snorted softly and said, "Your understanding of yourself is quite accurate. It was important to know one's own limits. Li Mu admitted that he was a vulgar person who had not broken away from vulgar interests. Since he had admitted it himself, the Empress could not stand on the moral high ground and criticize him. Zhou Yi continued to mock. If you switched places with me, I'm afraid that the harem would be full, right? Li Mu waved his hand and said modestly, it's not that bad, it's not that bad. In order to choose concubines, the former emperor had expanded the harem once. There were 72 concubines in 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. However, he only had children with the empress and the noble consort. Although Li Mu was also a lecher, he would not only care about physical pleasure when there was no emotional foundation. Until now, his body only belonged to Lu Hanyan. Zhou Yi asked again, don't tell me you're interested in those 2 nieces again? Li Mu looked at the empress and said in disbelief, am I such a person in your majesty's eyes? Zhou Yi waved her hand and said, I'm just asking out of curiosity. Li Mu said firmly, although I'm lecherous, I also have principles. I won't have any thoughts about my nieces. What's the difference between that and a beast? Today, he had talked a little too deeply with the empress. Seeing that the palace doors were about to close, Li Mu stood up and said, it's getting late. I'll go back first. Zhou Yi said casually, it's getting late. Why don't you stay in Chengel Palace tonight? You can read a few more memorials. Li Mu shook his head and said, no, I'll come back tomorrow. These past few days, he had been sick of reading memorials. Now, he did not want to read any more. Zhou Yi waved her hand disappointedly and said, go. Seeing Li Mu leave Chengel Palace, Zhou Yi returned to her bedroom and sat in front of her dressing table. She inadvertently saw herself in the mirror and was slightly stunned. The woman in the mirror was naturally very beautiful. However, no matter how beautiful she was, it could not hide the disappointment on her face. She began to think about why she was disappointed. It seemed to be because Li Mu had left. However, she had spent at least 16 hours with him today. During these 16 hours, the furthest they had been apart was no more than 10 steps. Why would she be disappointed when Li Mu left? Could it be that she wanted Li Mu to be with her 24 hours a day, eating and sleeping? Mei Wei told her that this was just normal possessiveness. However, Li Mu told her that this was love. Zhou Qiong's expression suddenly became one of bewilderment. She did not know who she should listen to. The empress was somewhat abnormal these past 2 days. While Li Mu was reading memorials, she did not read novels. She leaned on the dragon throne alone, thinking about something. However, it was normal for women to have more thoughts. Li Mu did not take it to heart. He had encountered difficulties in the matter of incorporating the demons of the Great Zhou. After the palace secretariat had decided on the policy and approved it, the palace secretariat immediately sent it to the various counties. These past few days, the various counties had successively responded. Contrary to Li Mu's expectations, only a few out of the 36 counties of the Great Zhou responded to the policy with a small number of demons. This policy was completely beneficial and harmless to the weak demons in various places. After becoming the demons of the Great Zhou, they did not need to bear any responsibility. They would remain as they were in the past. The only difference was that the Great Zhou court had become their backing. In the future, regardless of whether it was righteous or evil path cultivators or powerful demons that threatened their lives, the local authorities would not sit idly by. They would be treated as true citizens of the Great Zhou. Even so, not many demons were willing. Li Mu guessed that it was probably because they did not trust the court at all. This was not surprising. Within the borders of the Great Zhou, the demons were in an awkward situation. Although they were all native demons of the Great Zhou, and the Great Zhou was their hometown, the court was the court of the human race. On this land, humans could wantonly slaughter them. However, if they dared to slaughter humans, only death would await them. This situation had persisted for tens of thousands of years. From the Great Zhou to the previous dynasty, it had been like this for generations. The conflict between the demons and humans was engraved in their genes. Li Mu put down the reports from the various counties. After thinking for a while, he stood up and said, "Your Majesty, I will go out to investigate." I will be back in 2 or 3 days at most. Zhou Yi said absent-mindedly, "Be careful." After Li Mu left, outside the hall, Mr. Mei stuck his head out to take a look. He asked Shangguan Li, "Ah Li, did you notice that something is not right with His Majesty these past 2 days?" Shangguan Li asked, "What's wrong?" Mr. Mei said, "His Majesty has become less talkative and smiles less. He is often in a daze by himself. I don't know what he is thinking about." Shangguan Li thought for a while and said, "Maybe His Majesty is worried because the demons are not progressing well." Mr. Mei did not take her answer to heart. Ever since Li Mu was born, His Majesty had never cared about these things. Big and small matters, it was always Li Mu who took care of them. "Mei Wei, Ah Li, come in." The Empress's voice came from inside the hall. Mr. Mei walked in, bowed and asked, "Your Majesty, what are your orders?" Zhou Yi looked at her and asked, "Mei Wei, tell me, what is love?" Mr. Mei was stunned for a moment. Then, a complicated expression appeared on his face. He said, "Your Majesty, if I knew what love was, I would not be alone now." Zhou Yi reacted and said, "Ah Li." It was only then that she realized that the other 3 women in the hall, including her, were completely clueless about this matter. According to Li Mu, the green snake seemed to know a lot about love. Zhou Yi stood up and said, "Let's go. Take 2 boxes of pastries from the imperial kitchen and go to the Li mansion. I haven't seen Xiao Bai and Wan Wan for a few days." Central County? There were 36 counties in the Great Zhou. Central County was located in the center of the country. It was where the divine capital was located. However, the development of Central County was not as good as the other 36 counties. The entire Central County had to provide convenience for the divine capital. All resources were provided to the divine capital. This made it impossible for Central County to become prosperous. The people were not too poor, but they barely had enough to eat and wear. The demons in Central County had a relatively miserable life. The people were not rich. They had no livestock to steal, and they did not dare to do so. It was too close to the divine capital and there were too many cultivators. No demons dared to cause trouble here. Instead, they were worried that the cultivators would steal their souls. They longed to go to the demon nation. However, as local demons of the Great Zhou who grew up here, they were already familiar with this place. No one wanted to, and no one dared to, leave. With their cultivation, it was very likely that they would die on the way to the demon nation before reaching it. In a mountain somewhere in Central County, a dozen figures sat cross-legged in an open space filled with fallen leaves. All the demons who had taken human form within 100 miles were gathered here. These demons usually cultivated in their own hidden abodes. Other than those who were close to them, they rarely gathered. This was the first time they had gathered together. Not long ago, the Great Zhou court announced a piece of news. From today onwards, any demon who cultivated in the Great Zhou could apply to become a demon citizen of the Great Zhou. After reporting to the government and becoming a demon citizen, they could still cultivate in their original abodes. Furthermore, they did not have to worry about being devoured by stronger demons or being hunted down by human cultivators. As long as they became a demon citizen of the Great Zhou, the court would protect them as if they were ordinary citizens. As monsters, their greatest danger was their more powerful brethren and human cultivators. If their safety could be guaranteed, they could cultivate in peace. To them, this was a great thing. It was so good that they felt it was unreal. Among the demons, a tiger demon with 3 horizontal lines on its forehead said in a deep voice, "What do you all think about this?" A leopard demon said, "If this is true, then it's great. We don't have to worry about those human cultivators anymore. We don't have to hide anymore. We can cultivate openly in the mountains, idiot." Another wolf demon's face darkened. He gritted his teeth and said, "This is a conspiracy of the humans. Humans are cruel and cunning. Why would they be so nice to demons for no reason? They must want to catch us all in one fell swoop. Have you forgotten how your parents died?" The leopard demon's face was filled with hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's those damned human cultivators." Following that, the other demons also spoke. Brother Wolf is right. Humans are the most cruel and cunning. This must be their conspiracy. They want to lure us out and kill us as easily as blowing off dust. The goal of the human court is too obvious. Who would be stupid enough to believe humans? Everyone ignore it. Whoever goes will be courting death. In the sky above the demons, Li Mu merged with the canopy. He sighed inwardly. Changing the demons' understanding of humans was not something that could be done overnight. After returning to the divine capital, Li Mu had already thought of the next step of the plan. To make these demons believe in the court, he had to show them the court's sincerity. Li Mu needed the cooperation of some demons to set an example for the other demons. There was no one more suitable than Brother White's subordinates. Li Mu walked into the Li residence and saw Bai Tingxin, Wanwan, and Xiao Bai chatting and laughing around the empress. He walked in front of Bai Yinxin and said, "Yinxin, can you help me contact your father? I have something important to talk to him about." Bai Yinxin took out a spirit snail and imbued it with magic power. After saying a few words, she handed it to Li Mu. Li Mu greeted him briefly and then went straight to the point to tell him about it. The White Demon King said straightforwardly, "You can do as you see fit. You can bring Yinxin and Tingxin along. They will arrange it for you." Li Mu smiled and said, "Thank you, Brother White." The White Demon King said, "We're family. It's my duty." Li Mu said a few more words of courtesy before saying, "Then, Brother White, I'll take Yinxin back tomorrow." The White Demon King said, "Wait a moment." Li Mu asked, "Is there anything else?" The White Demon King said, "I heard from Tingxin that you're now a minister of the Great Zhou court and a favorite of the Great Zhou Empress. You have a very high status and identity. When I became sworn brothers with you back then, I didn't expect you to have this day." Li Mu smiled and said, "This won't affect our relationship as brothers." The White Demon King said, No. With your status and identity, how can you become sworn brothers with a demon? How will others look at you? From now on, don't call me brother anymore. I don't have a brother like you, but our relationship is still there. I hope you don't think too much." Li Mu was stunned and said, "Brother White, this?" The White Demon King smiled and said, "I'm doing this for your own good. Don't call me Brother White anymore. That's all. I still have other things to do. I'll take my leave." Li Mu held the snail that no longer made any sound and was at a loss. At the same time, thousands of miles away in the depths of the Eastern Sea, in a crystal palace. On a huge clam bed, a woman with 2 horns on her head rolled her eyes at the White Demon King and said angrily, "You're spoiling your daughter." The White Demon King did not care at all and said, "Back then, your father did everything he could to stop us. It's not like you don't know how difficult it was for us. I won't let my daughter suffer like this." He smiled at the woman under him and said, "You just have to look for me at this time. It's only been 4 hours. Come, let's continue." As soon as he finished speaking, the open clam shell slowly closed. Divine Capital, Li Residence. Li Mu returned the spirit snail to Bai Yinxin and did not come back to his senses for a long time. Everything was fine. What was he trying to do now? Bai Tingxin skipped over and said happily, "Uncle, you're back." When she ran to Li Mu, she pretended to be enlightened. "I almost forgot. Last time, my father said that he wanted to cut ties with you. I don't have to call you uncle anymore. What should I call you in the future? Benefactor, young master, or brother?" Chapter 463. Li Mu still could not understand the demonic beast's way of doing things. He had 2 nieces for no reason, and then they were gone for no reason. The problem was that Li Mu could not ignore them. The only change in this matter was that there was no longer a seniority barrier between him and Yinxin and Tingxin. Li Mu was speechless for a long time. Was there a father like this? He ignored the smug Bai Tingxin and said to the Empress, "Your Majesty, I need to go back to the North County to arrange some things and gain the trust of the demonic beasts as soon as possible so that they will cooperate with the imperial court's policies." Zhou Yi nodded and said, "Come back early. I will try my best." Li Mu responded to the Empress and said to Bai Yinxin, "Yinxin, I need you to go back to the North County with me and discuss something with your other uncles." Bai Yinxin did not hesitate and nodded, Okay. Bai Tingxin immediately said, I will go too. Li Mu flatly refused, one of you is enough. When he was still her elder, this little snake was already lawless. Now that he did not even have the protection of this relationship, she would definitely want a yard after taking an inch. Bai Tingxin looked at Li Mu and said unconvinced, then why do you want my sister to go with you? Do you have other thoughts about my sister? In order to prove his innocence, Li Mu said, it's the same no matter who goes. How about this, I will choose whoever I choose. Then you have nothing to say, right? Bai Tingxin said, then you have to be fair. Li Mu nodded and said, don't worry, it will be absolutely fair. He stretched out his finger and pointed at the two sisters, I will choose whoever the little rooster chooses. When the last word was said, his finger pointed at Bai Tingxin. Disappointment appeared in Bai Yinxin's eyes, while a victorious smile appeared on Bai Tingxin's face. Li Mu thought for a while, looked at the little green snake and said, you are eliminated. Yinxin, let's go. Beside the stone table in the courtyard of the Li residence, Bai Tingxin was hugging a puppet snake that she had made herself. She was slapping its tail and scolding, I told you not to bring me along. I'll beat you to death, I'll beat you to death. Wan sat on the swing and occasionally glanced at Bai Tingxin's direction with a worried expression. There was no fox spirit, but there were two snakes. The task given to her by Miss seemed to be getting harder and harder to complete. Xiao Bai sat next to her and was also worried. In the past, she only had to worry about whether other vixens would approach her benefactor. Now, other than vixens, even beautiful snakes had appeared. She heard from Sister Xian that men liked women with long legs. Her legs were not as long as theirs. Zhou Yi was still in the Li mansion. She walked to Bai Tingxin and sat down opposite her. She asked, you like Li Mu? Bai Tingxin nodded and raised her head to look at the Empress. Suddenly, she seemed to have realized something and asked expectantly, Empress Sis, can you issue an imperial edict to marry me to him? He definitely won't dare to disobey Empress Sis's imperial edict. Zhou Yi said faintly, I can't. Bai Tingxin was disappointed. Why? Zhou Yi said, you can't force a melon to be sweet. Feelings can't be forced. Bai Tingxin said firmly, I want to force it. Zhou Yi asked, he doesn't like you. What's the use of forcing it? Bai Tingxin did not seem to mind at all. He just hasn't realized how good I am yet. I believe that he will find out sooner or later. Love at first sight is just a matter of face. Only love that grows over time is true love. For some reason, Zhou Yi felt that the little green snake in front of her, although she was much younger than her and her words were very willful, made sense. She couldn't help but want to hear more from her and learn more. She asked, did you fall in love with Li Mu at first sight? Bai Tingxin curled her lips and said, of course not. Am I such a superficial snake? When we first met, we even fought. He even injured me. Later on, I slowly realized that he was good-looking, knew how to cook, had a gentle temper, and even saved me and my sister's life. At that time, I told myself that I, Bai Tingxin, have set my mind on him for the rest of my life. Zhou Yi thought for a while and asked, have you ever thought that one of you is a human and the other is a demon? Bai Tingxin was unconvinced. So what if he's a demon? Xiao Bai is a demon too. In the book he wrote, other than demons, there are also ghosts. Love doesn't differentiate race, identity, or status. This is what he told us. Zhou Yi was puzzled and asked, then you don't mind that he already has a wife, Wan and Xiao Bai? Bai Tingxin sighed and said, what can I do even if I mind? I also want to monopolize him, but I came too late. Empress Sis, if you have someone you like very, very much, you will understand how I feel. Zhou Yi shook her head. What a joke. How can I have? Bai Tingxin said regretfully, that's too bad. Sister Empress, you'll never know what it feels like to like someone. You'll always think about being with him, wanting to possess him, wanting him to only be with you. Zhou Yi clutched her chest and felt that her breathing began to become a little irregular. She was shocked. She didn't know why, but her inner demon was beginning to stir again. At this time, Bai Tingxin snorted and slapped the snake again. She said angrily, I like him so much, but he actually likes my sister more. He didn't even bring me back to Beijun. I'll beat you to death. In the sky above Zhongjuan, a flying boat sped past. At a certain height below the nine heavens astral wind layer, the atmosphere was relatively thin and the air was very stable. The flying boat sped past without any bumps. Li Mu stood at the bow of the boat and looked at Yin Exin, who was sitting cross-legged in the boat and cultivating seriously. He couldn't help but sigh at his decision. If he had brought another snake on this trip to Beijun, he wouldn't have been able to have a peaceful journey. Li Mu sized her up and thought of her appearance 2 years ago. She didn't seem to be much better than Tingxin. However, a woman changed 18 times between childhood and womanhood. Not only did she become more and more beautiful, even her personality had become so likable. He didn't know when the other snake would grow up. On the way, Li Mu had already asked Yin Exin. Her family had a very high status in Beijun's demon world. In the Great Zhou, there were very few demons that exceeded the 5th realm. The White Demon King's strength was the strongest among the demons in Beijun. In the entire Beijun, most of the demon experts, such as the Green Bull Demon, the Tiger King, the Rat King, and others, were working under him. As for the other demons, even if they weren't under him, the Green Bull Demon, the Tiger King, and the other demons had a say. A day later, in a mountain somewhere in Beijun, the Tiger King came forward with a smile and said, "Brother Li, long time no see. I heard that you've become a high-ranking official in the imperial court. I haven't congratulated you yet. You must stay today. Let's drink a few jars of his." Bai Yinxin walked forward and said, "Uncle Hu, there's no rush to drink. Call the other uncles over first. We came back this time because we have something important to discuss with you." The demons under the White Demon King were scattered in the 13 counties in Beijun. Other than the Rat King and the Green Bull Demon who were closer, the rest would only arrive tomorrow. However, these 3 demons were the strongest. Even the White Demon King called them brothers. Li Mu naturally couldn't order them directly. After the 3 demons gathered, Li Mu asked, "Brothers, have you heard that the imperial court wants to register the demons in the Great Zhou?" The Green Bull Demon nodded and said, "I've heard, but I don't know if it's true or not. We're still waiting." The Tiger King said, "It's most likely fake. The human imperial court isn't so kind. Even if they don't attack us, when they fight with the Demon Kingdom and Ghost Realm, they will use us as cannon fodder. This must be a vicious plan that someone came up with." Li Mu said in shame, "To be honest, I was the one who suggested this." The Green Bull Demon's eyes lit up. He suddenly looked at Li Mu and asked, "Brother Li, are you serious?" Li Mu nodded and said, "In the Great Zhou, a large part of the reason for the conflict between the demons and humans is that the imperial court's laws are unfair. The demons suffer under these unfair laws. I want to ease the conflict between the 2 races, so I pushed this matter forward. However, the hatred between the demons and humans is too deep. Very few demons are willing to trust the imperial court, so I asked for your help." The Green Bull Demon said, "If the imperial court is sincere, then this is an unprecedented good for the demons. We believe in Brother Li, but we don't know if we can trust the imperial court." Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "I can't promise the future, but I can promise you that as long as I'm in the imperial court, the demons of the Great Zhou will be protected by the imperial court. No matter who it is, whoever dares to hurt or kill the demons will be punished according to the laws of the Great Zhou." Li Mu could only guarantee this much. As long as he was in the imperial court, he could guarantee that the demons would enjoy the rightful rights. However, after he left the imperial court, he could not guarantee anything. However, this matter was beneficial to the imperial court in the first place, and they would not mess up this matter themselves. Even if the worst happened, and the demonic folk rose up in revolt, and the Great Zhou Empire fell into chaos once more, that would be the bitter fruit that they had planted themselves, and would have nothing to do with Li Mu and the Empress. At that time, they still did not know where to grow vegetables and flowers. The Green Bull Demon smiled and said, "Brother Li's words are enough. Don't worry. Let's not talk about other things. You can leave the matter of the North County demons to us." Li Mu and the demons talked until very late. Only then did they return to their room to rest. Bai Yinxin led him into a room and said, "This was originally Tingxin's room. She didn't come back. Brother Li can sleep here tonight." She looked around and found that the room was in a mess. The quilt on the bed was also rolled up into a ball. There was a snake-shaped pillow with its tail drooping on the ground. The room was so messy that even she felt a little embarrassed. She hurried forward and tidied up as she said, "It's a little messy here. Brother Li, you can go out first. You can come in after I tidy up." Li Mu said, "I'll help you tidy up." Outside the room, the Tiger King looked inside in surprise. He wondered, isn't Brother Li the Demon King's sworn brother? Why is Tingxin calling him brother? The seniority is messed up. Could it be that Brother Li has cut off all ties with him? The Green Bull Demon patted him on the shoulder and said, "What does this have to do with you? Calling him brother is not as close as calling him uncle. Let's go. Don't stand here. Go do your own things." The Tiger King looked puzzled. He muttered, "How can brother be closer than uncle? Uncle is clearly closer." Lying on the bed made by Tingxin and sleeping under the quilt made by Tingxin, Li Mu quickly fell asleep. A few days ago, he was tormented by the two sisters. His physical strength was not small. His overdrawn body had not fully recovered. Because he had to deal with memorials for a long time every day, his energy was greatly depleted. He slept until late in the morning. When he woke up, Li Mu's physical and mental exhaustion had been swept away. When his body and mind were completely relaxed, he even had a dream. It was an extremely erotic dream. He had been separated from Lu Hanyan for a few months, and he had also been abstinent for a few months. For a newlywed who had tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time, it was a very difficult few months. Li Mu admitted that he was a lustful person, but even a lustful person had a bottom line. However, things like dreaming were not something that could be controlled by his subjective consciousness. Li Mu smelled the fragrance on the quilt that belonged to Bai Tingxin and swore that he would not sleep here tonight. Recalling the contents of the dream, he felt a little ashamed. He felt sorry for calling brother Bai countless times. Bai Yinxin had already woken up. She helped Li Mu bring his toiletries. Li Mu walked out of bed and said, "Thank you, Yinxin. Leave it there. I'll do it myself." Bai Yinxin still helped him wet the towel. After wringing it dry, she handed it to him. In fact, cultivators had their own supernatural powers to avoid dust. However, most of the time, they still maintained the habits of ordinary people. This could make them feel that they were still human at all times, reducing the possibility of inner demons during the cultivation process. After washing up, Li Mu walked out of the room. The demons under the White Demon King had received the summons and had rushed over overnight. After hearing the Green Bull Demon and the Tiger King explain the purpose of gathering them, some of the demons were overjoyed, while others expressed their worries. Could this be a conspiracy of the imperial court? Why would they do something that is only beneficial to the demons for no reason? This is a matter of great importance. It's better to be careful. The demons' guard against humans was engraved in their bones, blood, and genes. It was impossible to convince them with just a few words. Fortunately, they did not completely refuse because of the White Demon King. In order to dispel their concerns, Li Mu made some concessions. The demons of the North County did not need to go to the various government offices to register. He would transfer a few officials from the county office to help them register their demons here. This could dispel some of their concerns. Many demons believed that the entire matter was a conspiracy of the imperial court. The day they went to the government office to register their names would be the day they died. In addition, the demons of the Great Zhou did not need to listen to the orders of the local government. After the demons were registered, they would establish a demon division that specialized in dealing with demons. There were demon officials in the demon division who were local powerful demons. They could receive a salary from the imperial court and command the demons of a county. Although this would increase the expenses of the national treasury, after Li Mu reformed the consecration department, the national treasury had a large amount of expenses left. It was more than enough to pay the salaries of the demon officials of the demon division. The demons of the various counties, regardless of race, were forbidden from killing each other. Once discovered, the demon division would directly capture them. After reporting to the imperial court, they would be dealt with according to the laws of the Great Zhou. If a cultivator harmed or killed a demon, the demon division could also capture them and hand them over to the imperial court. In addition, demons with a certain level of strength could complete missions issued by the various government offices in exchange for spiritual jades, dharma treasures, fulu, pills, and other cultivation resources. When they heard about the benefits of being registered as a demon, the demons of the North County were in an uproar. Being registered as a demon in the Great Zhou seemed to only have benefits for them. There were no disadvantages at all. Weak demons not only had difficulty cultivating, but they also had to worry about being devoured by powerful demons at all times. They usually hid and did not dare to reveal any demon chi. After being registered as a demon, the weak rabbit demons, fox demons, and so on could also appear openly in front of the tiger demons, wolf demons, bear demons, and other natural enemies. If they dared to touch a single hair of theirs, they would be punished by the demon division and the imperial court. Not only was the safety of the small demons guaranteed, but the powerful demons also heaved a sigh of relief. Their strength was only relative. Compared to the sharpness of dharma treasures, the power of supernatural powers, and the mysterious cultivators of fulu, they were also absolute weaklings. Usually, they only dared to hide in the depths of the mountains and forests and did not dare to easily appear in human cities. Even so, they still had to worry about human cultivators coming to their door, killing them, and taking their souls and demon cores to cultivate. With the demon registration, everything was different. Even demons had a strong sense of belonging to the land under their feet. If they could have a powerful backer to support them, who would be willing to be a weak mountain spirit with no one to rely on? From now on, their identities were no longer mountain demons, but the demons of the Great Zhou. Anyone who wanted to harm them had to consider carefully whether they could afford to offend the Great Zhou court. The White Demon King was very prestigious in the hearts of the demons of the North County. After the news spread, the demons of the North County began to rush here, afraid that they would miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity if they were too late. Li Mu opened his heavenly eye and saw the large and small demon auras in the mountains. He was gratified. As expected, the demons did not trust the imperial court, but they trusted the demons. This time, the White Demon King had helped him greatly. It was not in vain that he had spent so much effort on his two daughters. It was late at night. Li Mu was still thinking about all kinds of possible changes when Bai Yinxin knocked on the door and walked in with a bowl of ginseng soup. She said, "Brother Li, you've been busy all day. Drink this bowl of ginseng soup and rest early." "Thank you, Yinxin." Li Mu took the bowl and found that the soup in the bowl was neither cold nor hot. He drank a few mouthfuls and then asked, "Yinxin, are there any other empty rooms here?" Bai Yinxin asked, "What's wrong? Is Brother Li not comfortable sleeping here?" Li Mu nodded and said, "I'm not used to sleeping in Tingxin's room." Bai Yinxin thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll sleep here. You can sleep in my room next door." After drinking the ginseng soup, she brought Li Mu to her room. Although the two sisters were born from the same parents, their personalities were completely different. Their rooms were also completely different. The younger sister's room was as messy as a snake's nest, while the elder sister's room was clean and tidy. It gave people a very comfortable feeling. The only thing in common between the two rooms was that the quilts were very fragrant. Li Mu lay on the bed and fell asleep amidst a faint fragrance. The next day, he still didn't wake up until late in the morning. Li Mu sat on the bed and recalled the dream last night. After being stunned for a long time, he slapped himself and said angrily, "I'm not human." Chapter 465. Li Mu had always felt that taking in a disciple was a very troublesome matter. It was not easy for him to have a sudden impulse to take in a disciple to play with, but he was mercilessly rejected by Yin Exin. A forcefully picked melon was not sweet, and a forcefully taken in disciple was not fragrant either. Since she was unwilling, Li Mu did not mention it again. However, even though he did not succeed in taking in a disciple, he still taught Yin Exin everything he knew about formations. He did not know if it was because she had half of the dragon bloodline, but although she was also a demon, her comprehension was much stronger than those big demons. She often understood with a little guidance, and could even draw inferences from one example. This fully satisfied Li Mu's sense of achievement. It was human nature to be good at teaching others, especially Li Mu, who had a lot of skills but no one to inherit them. After a long time, he was bored and needed to find someone to teach him. The disciple he taught was so smart, so as a teacher, he was naturally happy. Although Yin Exin was still unwilling to call Li Mu sir. In one night, Li Mu finished teaching her the basics of formations. Currently, he was only at the beginner level, but there was still a long way to go. It would not be too late to teach her slowly when they returned to the fairy's capital. The next morning, with Li Mu's help, she began to try to set up her own formations. Although the number of demons was far less than humans, in the entire North County, there were close to 1,000 demons that had transformed and had not transformed. Among them, 80 to 90% were small demons that had not transformed. According to the division of the mountains, each mountain could be assigned to dozens of demons. After the spirit gathering formation was set up, the density of spiritual energy in the entire mountain was about the same. The demons opened up an open space on their own mountain and built houses to live in. He was already a demon citizen of the great Zhou dynasty. Of course, he could not be like the mountain spirits and wild monsters in the past, casually digging a hole and calling it an immortal's cave. He deserved to be called an uncivilized beast. Yin Exin was setting up a spirit-gathering formation for Mountain Number 1. Mountain Number 1 was where the North County Demon Division was located. The Green Ox and the Tiger King were the chief and deputy demon commanders. This mountain was being built on a large scale, imitating the Imperial Court's yamen and building a government office. The Department of Demons was directly under the Department of Consecration. It was completely modeled after the Great Zhou Court. Other than the government offices, there was also an official residence. The Tiger King wanted to compete with the Green Bull Spirit for the 5-entry mansion in building one of the first mountain. Neither of them was willing to submit to the other. He said to Li Mu, I want it, I want it. Thank you, brotherly, thank you, brotherly. Green Ox Demon also thanked him gratefully. Regardless of whether it was a human or a demon, a pill that could help a cultivator break through to the 5th realm was a treasure. Li Mu said again, I will teach you 2 new cultivation techniques. In the future, you will cultivate according to these techniques. The demonic techniques of the various races in the heavenly tomes were very complete. If one had enough talent and luck, it was enough to allow a small demonic beast to cultivate to the 9th realm. Li Mu circulated his mana through the 2 demonic beasts' bodies and said, remember this mana circulation route. In the future, cultivate according to this mantra. Other than the 2 of you, you cannot tell anyone else about this. It was not that Li Mu was stingy. It was just that he knew the nature of the Green Ox and the Tiger, but he did not know about the other demons. Once he passed on top techniques to demons with evil intentions, it would bring endless trouble to the Imperial Court. It was also a sin that Li Mu created himself. Tiger King followed the technique that Li Mu taught him. After circulating his mana in his body, his eyes were filled with shock. Then he looked at Li Mu seriously and said, Brotherly, no, big brotherly, in the future, you are my big brother. Green Ox Demon knelt on the ground and bowed respectfully to Li Mu. Tiger King saw this and also knelt down without hesitation. He bowed a few times to Li Mu. Li Mu not only gave them pills, but also imparted knowledge to them. On the path of cultivation, demons had a much harder time than humans. It was even more difficult to obtain a cultivation technique. The cultivation technique that Li Mu taught them was almost tailor-made for them. It allowed their cultivation speed to increase exponentially. With so much kindness, the two demons did not know how to repay it. Li Mu waved his hand and said, "All right, we are all brothers. There is no need to be so formal. After you have refined these pills, I will teach you some of the techniques of our race." After giving the 2 realm breaker pills to the 2 demons, Li Mu suddenly thought of Een Exin. This little girl should not think too much. He looked at the girl beside him and said, "Een Exin, don't think too much. It is not that I don't want to give them to you, but your cultivation is still too shallow. The realm breaker pills are useless to you. Also, these 2 pills are from 3,000 years ago. Who knows if they have expired? When your cultivation is enough, I will make new ones for you." The green bull demon had already poured out the pills. His 2 large eyes looked at Li Mu. Tiger King had just thrown the pills into his mouth. He looked at Li Mu in shock. Finally, he gritted his teeth and swallowed the pills. Reality proved that even if it was a pill from 3,000 years ago, as long as it was preserved properly, its medicinal effects would not be affected. Li Mu's efforts were not wasted. In just 3 days, the 2 demons had refined the pills and reached the 5th level. As long as they stabilized for a while, they would be able to use the full power of the 5th level. In order to increase their strength again, Li Mu taught them the techniques of their race and gave them new weapons. The green bull demon received a steel mace. The tiger demon received a 9-ringed saber. They were both high-grade earth-level magic treasures. After the 2 demons received them, they could not bear to part with them and went outside to spar. The North County Demon Division finally had a decent master. A 5th-level demon cultivator could barely be considered a master in the demon nation. But in the Great Zhou demon world, they could do whatever they wanted. However, the strength of the entire demon division was still not enough in front of a true master. Other than the spirit gathering formation, Li Mu also planned to help them set up a defensive formation. The highest level of formations was not to use spiritual jades or formation flags to form a formation to block the enemy. Instead, it used the power of heaven and earth. According to different terrains, it borrowed the power of heaven and earth to form a formation. For Een Exin, who had just come into contact with formations, this was still difficult to understand. When Li Mu set up the formation, he would let her observe and then explain it to her in detail. On a mountain wall somewhere, Li Mu and Een Exin, one on top and one on the bottom, were carving formation patterns. Formation patterns were similar to Fulu. These seemingly random lines could mobilize the power of heaven and earth. As Li Mu drew, he sighed. It was good to bring Een Exin out. She would only cause trouble for him and take advantage of him. Een Exin was completely different. She was obedient and capable. She reduced his burden by a lot. After Li Mu finished drawing a part of the formation patterns, he felt the spirit snail vibrate. He took out the spirit snail, and the Empress's voice came from it. "What are you doing?" Li Mu said honestly, "I'm helping the North County Demon Division set up a formation." The Empress liked to check on Li Mu. If she missed a call from the spirit snail, she could make dozens or hundreds of calls. Li Mu reported on his recent work and the progress of the North County Demon Division. He also chatted with the Empress and learned about the protests of the independent cultivators in the Great Zhou. Li Mu had already expected this. The imperial court protected the demons, but it had little impact on the disciples of the large sections. The Fulu school and other large sects had strict restrictions on their disciples. They were not allowed to kill demons to take the shortcut of cultivation. However, these independent cultivators often did such things. More than 90% of the heretical cultivation wanted by the imperial court were independent cultivators. About 70% to 80% of the heretical cultivation wanted by the demons were independent cultivators. These evil human cultivators could be said to be the cancer of both the human and demon worlds. Among them, there were people who followed the righteous path, but there were more people who followed the evil path. They were the unstable factors in the Great Zhou. They had cultivation and did not obey the rules of the government. They did not contribute much to the Great Zhou. They also occupied some famous mountains and rivers and opened up cultivation caves. They did not allow others to get close to them. The local government also turned a blind eye to them. As long as they did not harm the local government was not willing to provoke them. However, it was different now. The demons who had submitted to the imperial court were also citizens of the Great Zhou. Attacking them was defying the imperial court. In order to take the shortcut of cultivation, they often killed demons to cultivate. Taking in the demons would inevitably arouse their dissatisfaction. As for these kinds of people, it was not advisable to completely fall out with them. Li Mu had already thought of a countermeasure. Rather than oppose them, it was better to pull them to his side. The office of worship was already understaffed. They were still busy with the affairs of the Shendu and the Central Commandery. A single office of worship was not enough to manage the 36 commanderies of the Great Zhou. It was better to set up another office of worship in each commandery and recruit some independent cultivators. They would assist the local government and pacify the commandery. Of course, the imperial court would have to pay a price. Taking in these people would inevitably increase the expenses of the national treasury. However, there were not many things in the world that could be done without risking anything. If you wanted to gain something, you had to lose something. Li Mu had already written the solution to this matter in the memorial. He asked the Empress, "Where is Her Majesty now?" Zhou Yi said, "In the Chengel Palace." Li Mu said, "Her Majesty, look at the memorial on the table next to your hand. It's the third column from the left, the third from the last. I've already written in great detail about the independent cultivators." Zhou Yi found the memorial that Li Mu had mentioned and said, "I've found it." Li Mu sighed inwardly. That memorial was still in its original position. This meant that after he left, his beloved Her Majesty the Empress had not looked at the memorial. Li Mu said, "Then I'll take my leave." Below, Bai Yinxin raised her head and said, "Brother Li, come down. It's my turn." Li Mu put away the spirit conch and flew down. The air here was filled with dense spirit qi, which was many times denser than the spirit qi in his cave abode in Yunzhong County. He took a deep breath and coughed due to the impact of the spiritual aura. Hu Chang's eyes lit up. If he could cultivate in such a place, wouldn't his cultivation soar? Bathing in such dense spiritual energy, he would be able to advance to the 5th realm in another 10 years. "Ah, cousin, long time no see." A hearty laugh came from the front. Hu Chang looked over and a smile appeared on his face. He quickly walked over and said, "Congratulations on advancing to the Archfiend realm, cousin." The Tiger King put his arm around his shoulder and said, "Let's go. Let's have a good drink today." Hu Chang followed the Tiger King for a few steps and saw a magnificent house in front of him. If he was not in the mountains, he would have thought that he was in a human town. As Hu Chang walked, he asked, "Cousin, what's going on?" The Tiger King laughed and said, "Your cousin is now the North County Demon Commander of the Great Zhou. I'm in charge of the demons in the North County. Of course, I can't live as casually as before." Hu Chang was shocked and asked, "Cousin, have you submitted to the imperial court?" The Tiger King said unhappily, "Submit? What do you mean submit? I'm in charge of the demons, protect them, and work for them. How can that be considered submitting?" "Don't call me that." Hu Chang said a few words and asked expectantly, "Cousin, can I come here to cultivate in the future?" The Tiger King said, "You're doing well in Yunzhong County. What are you doing here?" Hu Chang said honestly, "The spiritual qi here is much more abundant than in my cave abode. It's faster to cultivate here." The Tiger King glanced at him and said, "Look at you. It's just a spirit gathering array. When the time comes, I'll get someone to set one up for you." Hu Chang quickly said, "No need, no need. I'll just cultivate with you." He was not stupid. Without strength, what was the use of a spirit-gathering array? In the Great Zhou, the blessed grotto heavens with abundant spiritual qi were all occupied by humans. Some of the inferior cave abodes that human cultivators looked down on were also occupied by demon cultivators. He was just a small demon of the 4th realm. If he cultivated in such a place with abundant spiritual qi, It would not be long before a stronger human or demon took over his cave abode. They would use his tiger skin as a blanket and cut off his penis to make wine. To them, possessing treasures that did not match their strength was akin to wishing for an early death. The Tiger King led him into the house that he had just built and said, "Actually, I've asked you to come here for an important matter. You should know that the Imperial Court is planning to establish a demon division in each county to manage the demon race. There are no suitable candidates in Yunzhong County for the time being." Chapter 467. Li Mu once again rejected Hu Jiao's temptation mercilessly. Huan Ji and the other two took the people of Meizong sect and flew towards Qianhu country. On the way, Hu Jiao was still confused. She murmured, "Who ordered these guys to do this?" Huan Ji was thinking. At a certain moment, she suddenly stopped and her expression changed. She immediately said, "Let's go back." Li Mu gave the bear monster some healing pills. Just as he was about to ask if he was willing to be the demon commander of Jiujiang County, Huan Ji and the other two suddenly returned. Huan Ji stared at the sword in Yin Xian's hand and asked, "Where did you get your sword?" Hu Jiao finally realized something and exclaimed, "Little snake's sword." Li Mu glanced at Yin Xian. Although he looked calm, he was actually panicking. At this moment, he was only one step away from true social death. Yin Xian's sword was given to her by him, and this sword was originally given to him by Huan Ji. It should have been destroyed by Little Snake's self-destruction. It shouldn't be in Yin Xian's hands. Li Mu's mind raced as he quickly came up with an excuse. He said indifferently, "I found this sword in the Jiujiang Commandery Prince's mansion. No matter who it belonged to before, it belongs to me now. Don't even think about taking it back." That night, the Jiujiang County King was also there. After Little Snake died, it was reasonable for him to take the sword away. Li Mu rejoiced that he thought of this wonderful reason at the last minute. Huan Ji obviously didn't suspect too much. She said softly, "This sword used to belong to one of my subordinates." Li Mu glanced at her and asked, "Do you plan to take it back?" Huan Ji said lightly, "No need." She glanced at the sword and left again. Hu Jiao followed her and asked hesitantly, "Lord Huan Ji, that's Little Snake's relic. Do we really not want to take it back?" Huan Ji took a deep breath and said, "Little Snake is already dead. There's no point in taking back the sword." Hu Jiao sighed and said, "That's right. I don't want to think of Little Snake every time I see the sword." At Black Bear Ridge, Bai Yinshin looked at the snake-shaped sword in her hand. She instinctively felt that there was some secret between Li Mu, the fox demon, and this sword. She tilted her head and asked Li Mu, "Brother Li, who is Little Snake?" Li Mu shook his head and said, "I don't know, not familiar." Bai Yinshin looked meaningfully at the sword in her hand and didn't ask any more questions. Li Mu heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, the level 5 black bear spirit had already walked over. He clasped his fists and said, "Thank you, Lord Li, for saving us. Thank you, Lord Li, for killing Jiujiang Commandery Prince Xiao Heng and returning peace to the demons of Jiujiang Commandery." Li Mu said, "Bear King is too polite. Great Zhou is not a place for these evil cultivators to run amok." The black bear spirit took the initiative to ask, "Sir, you came here to establish the Jiujiang County Demon Department, right?" Li Mu nodded and said, "The demon department of a commandery needs a demon king who can intimidate the demons. Is Bear King willing to take on this responsibility?" The black bear spirit did not hesitate and said, "I am willing." He knew very well that he had to choose between the demon sect and the imperial court. At this point, it was impossible for him to stay out of trouble and not offend both sides. He could choose to agree or remain neutral from the imperial court. However, if he did not follow the demon sect, he would definitely be killed by the demon sect. Rather than that, he would rather rely on the imperial court and obtain their protection. They were demons born and raised in the Great Zhou. They had a certain sense of belonging to the Great Zhou. However, humans had always adhered to the idea that those who were not of the same race must have different intentions. They had never accepted the demons. The demons of the Great Zhou had been waiting for this day for thousands of years. After establishing the Zhejiang County Demon Department, the northwestern commanderies had been settled. The remaining commanderies could be handed over to the Consecration Department. The two high consecrators would personally lead the charge to convince the demons through reason and slowly push forward. To prevent the same thing from happening again, Li Mu set up an offensive and defensive formation in the Bear Demon Cave in the Black Bear Ridge. With the Black Bear King's cultivation, unless a sixth realm cultivator attacked, it would be difficult for anyone below the sixth realm to break through. As for the Demon Nation and the Demon Sect, if cultivators above the sixth realm appeared openly in the Great Zhou and attacked the demons and civilians of the Great Zhou, it would be tantamount to declaring war on the Great Zhou. The last Nether Saint to do this was already gone. As long as a sixth realm cultivator did not appear, this formation could ensure the safety of the Bear Demon tribe. After returning from Zhejiang County, Li Mu prepared to return to the Immortals' capital. If he had to deal with every commanderies in the Great Zhou personally, then what was the point of having so many consecrators? The annual salary that the imperial court gave to the consecration department was better given to him alone. Li Mu brought in Xin and was already on the flying boat back to the Immortals' capital. In the Thousand Fox Nation, Phantom Princess looked at Bai Xian and questioned, "Why did you make such a decision without the approval of the elders?" Bai Xian glanced at her and said calmly, "The Great Zhou Court wants to establish the demon department in the commanderies and divide the demons. They have ulterior motives. How can we let them do as they wish? What's wrong with me asking them to destroy the Great Zhou Court's plan?" Phantom Princess's lips moved, but she was speechless for a moment. Bai Xian looked at her meaningfully and said, "Junior sister, don't forget your identity and the responsibility of the Meizong sect. Don't think that I don't know. In Zhejiang County, you flirted with Li Mu in the Great Zhou and watched Li Mu destroy our people's cultivation. I won't report this to the Sage sect for now. I hope you can take care of yourself." Hu Jiao said angrily, "What do you mean watch? Do you know how strong Li Mu is? Even if we worked together, we were no match for him. Only Lord Phantom Princess could bring them back and spare their lives. Otherwise, their heads would have been chopped off by the Great Zhou Court. You wouldn't even be able to see them." Bai Xian's face darkened and he said coldly, "Is this the place for you to interrupt?" Hu Jiao snorted and said, "You? I wouldn't interrupt even if you asked me to." "Disgusting," Phantom Princess said. "Hu Jiao, leave first." Although Hu Jiao looked angry, she still left. Only Phantom Princess and Bai Xian were left. Bai Xian's face softened a little. He looked at Phantom Princess and said, "Junior sister, you know how I feel about you. In these years, you disobeyed the Sage sect's orders many times. I helped you hide it. Including this time, I won't tell the Sage sect. But I need you to give me a response." Phantom Princess sighed and shook her head. "Sorry, senior brother Bai. I don't have any romantic feelings for you." Bai Xian looked disappointed and said, "I'm being sentimental." After he finished speaking, his expression returned to normal, and he turned around to leave. Bai Xian returned to the palace and saw a young man sitting in his seat. Behind the young man were 3 old men. The 3 old men gave Bai Xian the feeling that they were ordinary people. But the 3 black lotuses embroidered on their chests made Bai Xian's pupils shrink. In the Sage sect, 3 black lotuses represented elders of the 7th realm. Shindu. The consecration department had already made steady progress in the demon division. The 36 demon divisions were directly under the consecration department and were not under the jurisdiction of the imperial court. The local government of each county had no right to mobilize the demon division. Even Li Mu didn't believe in the imperial court, let alone the demon clan. During the time of the previous emperor, the imperial court had done many despicable things and caused a lot of trouble for the empress and Li Mu. Li Mu didn't forget that the demon division was directly under the consecration department, and the consecration department was directly under the empress. This could avoid many problems. This way, The Great Zhou had 2 imperial courts. They didn't affect each other and were both controlled by the empress. Li Mu only did one thing these days, and that was to make pills. From the demon clan's heavenly book, Li Mu obtained a pill formula for the demon clan. For example, she went to Li Mu's house more often than when Li Mu wasn't here. And she didn't go to see Wan Wan and Xiao Bai. Instead, she spent more time with the little green snake. When did Her Majesty become so familiar with the little green snake? When Li Mu returned home, he was welcomed by 4 beautiful girls. Wan Wan, Xiao Bai, and Inxin were fine, but Tingxin was really clingy. As long as Li Mu was in his house, she would think of ways to pester him. Sometimes she would ask him questions about cultivation, and sometimes she would ask him to teach her supernatural powers. The key was that she couldn't learn it in one try. Li Mu often had to teach her 10 or even dozens of times. In the process, a lot of physical contact was unavoidable. Even though Li Mu was already very careful, he couldn't avoid her rubbing here and there. Teaching her supernatural powers was more torturous than refining pills and writing talismans. Li Mu had no choice but to teach Inxin first, and then let Inxin teach her. In the room, Bai Tingxin pouted and said unhappily, "He's deliberately avoiding me." Bai Inxin glanced at her and said unhappily, "Who told you to always be so unruly?" Bai Tingxin said, "Happiness is fought for by oneself. I have to work hard for my own happiness." Bai Inxin shrugged and said, "Then you slowly fight for it. I'm going to sleep." Bai Tingxin walked out of the room and stood at the door. Her eyes were rolling around. Suddenly, a light flashed in her eyes, and a plan came to her mind. In Li Mu's room, he was planning to rest. Before going to sleep, he had just chanted the clear heart chant twice. There was a restless snake at home that was thinking of ways to provoke him every day. After having nightmares for 3 consecutive days, he didn't dare to sleep without chanting the clear heart chant a few times before going to sleep. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Li Mu got out of bed and opened the door. He saw Lu Hanyan standing outside. He was stunned for a moment, and then he said in surprise, "You're back." Lu Hanyan threw herself into his arms. Li Mu wanted to hug her, but he suddenly lowered his head and looked at her slender legs wrapped around his waist. Lu Hanyan was still somewhat reserved. She had never done such a thing to Li Mu. Moreover, to be honest, although her legs were also very long, they were not so slender. After carefully feeling it, Li Mu felt the difference. This little snake was getting more and more overboard. She had only learned the basics of the alien transformation technique, and she dared to show off in front of him. If he didn't teach her an unforgettable lesson this time, he didn't know what she would do in the future. Li Mu didn't expose her immediately. He smiled and said, "Come in." Lu Hanyan smiled and followed him into the room. Li Mu closed the door of the room and set up a soundproof barrier. "You'd rather go to the demon nation than stay here." Chapter 469. Li Mu didn't expect the Empress to look at the problem in such a tricky way. He quickly explained, "Your Majesty, please don't misunderstand. That's not what I meant." "Then what do you mean?" "I don't mean anything. Do you feel that it's meaningless to talk to me?" Li Mu took a deep breath and finally said, "I won't go." A moment later, he left Changle Palace with a helpless expression. In the past 6 months, he had indeed spent more time outside than in Chengdu. The Empress had already seen the resentment in the memorial, but this time, Li Mu had to go to the Yao nation. In fact, he and Phantom Princess had the same dream, which was that humans and demons could coexist peacefully. She ended up like this largely because she didn't want to hurt innocent humans and angered the higher-ups of the demonic path. For the great Zhou, he couldn't sit by and watch the Yao nation unite. For little Snake, he couldn't watch anything happen to Phantom Princess and Hu Jiao. The Empress' anger was temporary. She would agree if he coaxed her later. In Chengel Palace, Zhou Yi sat on the dragon throne. After a long silence, she asked Mr. Mei and Shangguan Li, "Am I being unreasonable?" Shangguan Li lowered her head and didn't answer. Mr. Mei glanced at Shangguan Li and said helplessly, "Actually, Li Mu is also helping your majesty. If the Celestial Wolf tribe unifies the Yao nation, it will be a disaster for the great Zhou," Zhou Yi said, "but he just came back a few days ago. Recently, he's only been in Shendu for a few days and gone for a few months." Mr. Mei thought for a moment and said, "Your Majesty, a short separation is for a better reunion. After he calms down the chaos, he'll have time to stay by your Majesty's side." Zhou Yi sat there and fell into deep thought. Li Mu returned to the Li residence. When he opened the door, he found the Empress was already in the courtyard. Zhou Yi looked at him, took a deep breath and said, "Go. I won't stop you." Li Mu breathed a sigh of relief. The Empress actually knew how to coax herself. If only everyone could be as reasonable as her. Since the Empress had already agreed, Li Mu did not have any more misgivings. Before he left, he made arrangements for Wan Wan and Xiaobai's cultivation and assigned tasks to Yin Xin and Ting Xin. In the courtyard, Li Mu hugged Wan Wan and Xiaobai and gently patted their heads. He said, "Cultivate well at home and wait for me to come back." He walked towards Moaning Heart again, and the girl opened her arms to him. Li Mu didn't want to hug her at first, but she had already posed. If he didn't do anything, how could she get out of the embarrassing situation? The girl only thought about a farewell hug. If he thought too much, it would make him seem like he had a dirty mind. Li Mu hugged her gently and said, "Take your time to comprehend the matrices I taught you. I will check them when I come back." Bai Yinxin nodded gently and said, "I understand, Brother Li. I will work hard to cultivate." Li Mu finally looked at Bai Tingxin. Wan Wan had hugged him, Xiaobai had hugged him, and his sister had also hugged him. If he treated her differently, it would be inappropriate. As soon as he opened his arms, Bai Tingxin jumped onto him. She hooked her arms around his neck and wrapped her slender legs around his waist. She promised, "Don't worry, I will cultivate well. You also have to be careful outside. I will wait for you to come back." She clung to Li Mu and was unwilling to come down. Li Mu could take her down by force. A former niece spoke like the mistress of the house. Li Mu even wanted the Empress to bring her to the palace to learn the rules. At the very least, he wanted her to learn how to hug and not cling to others. Li Mu had told her many times about this. She insisted that this was the nature of the snake race and could not be changed. Li Mu let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, he looked at the Empress and said, "Your Majesty, I will leave now." Zhou Yi naturally stretched out her arms. Li Mu was stunned for a moment. He opened his arms and hugged her gently. The Empress's figure was seriously underestimated. Except for Li Mu, no one knew what kind of curves were hidden under her loose clothes. She was not inferior to Lu Hanyan. Wan Wan and Xiaobai were slightly inferior. Yinxin and Tingxin were even more incomparable. After a short hug, Li Mu took a step back. He looked at them again and turned to leave. Until his figure completely disappeared, several figures were still standing at the door. At a certain moment, Zhou Yi asked the green snake beside her, "Don't you like him? Why didn't you leave with him this time?" Bai Tingxin said meaningfully, "As long as two people's hearts are together, why would they care if they can accompany each other every day?" Zhou Yi said, "But your hearts are not together." Bai Tingxin clenched her fists and said firmly, "Sooner or later, it will be." Great changes had occurred in the Yao kingdom. The great Zhou court wanted to ally with the Yao to resist the Yao, but they were rejected. They could only find other ways. In recent days, various large and small court meetings had been held. They were all discussions about resisting the Yao race. Another group of students of White Deer Academy had gone to the north. Even the dean had personally gone to Jiujiang County to stand guard there and deal with possible conflicts in the future. The Secretariat, the Assistant Minister of the Secretariat, and the several secretaries of the secretariat all looked haggard. They had yet to reach a conclusion about the Yao race. They began to miss the days when they had Li Mu. He was in the secretariat, and they did not have to worry about big or small matters. Unfortunately, in the past half-year, he had rarely participated in the affairs of the imperial court. He focused on the affairs of the consecration department. The tasks he carried out were all confidential tasks. Chapter 470. Inside the mountain, the corpse sect disciples were silent. Everyone had a premonition that the familiar great elder had returned. Before this, although all kinds of evidence showed that the young man in front of them was the Grand Elder's possessed body, his personality was very different from Grand Elder Qianhuan's. The benevolent-looking Grand Elder Qianhuan was actually the most ruthless and cruel. Those who disobeyed him in the corpse sect had all become real corpses. This young and handsome face gave Su Shiqi and the dozen people an illusion. No matter how handsome and kind he was, his soul was still Grand Elder Qianhuan's soul. Su Shiqi and the others had forgotten an important thing. There was an unwritten rule in the corpse sect: obey the Grand Elder and disobey the Grand Elder's corpse. The Grand Elder's skill just now had completely subdued all the corpse sect disciples inside the mountain. No one dared to have any objections. If they left the Glory sect, they might be in trouble in the future. If they betrayed the Grand Elder, they had to die now. Who wouldn't want to live a little longer? The Glory sect was just an illusion to them. Their lives were more important now. Chen Shiqi gathered his courage and asked softly, "Grand Elder, let's follow the old rules and refine these traitors?" Li Mu waved his hand and said, "No need to waste materials. Lock them up first. They might be useful in the future." Chen Shiqi said respectfully, "Yes, Grand Elder." The dozen people were taken away. The remaining disciples stood even more respectfully at the side. Li Mu moved the corpse sect disciples emotionally and logically. He even gave them the right to choose. The corpse sect disciples were still determined to be loyal to him and stay in the corpse sect. Li Mu was very pleased. He dismissed most of the people and asked, "How's the refining of the 10 demon corpses going?" Speaking of this, Chen Shiqi and the others showed pride on their faces. They said, "Grand Elder, 8 of the demon corpses have all been successfully refined, and their cultivations have all reached the 6th realm. The 8 demon corpses were all 7th realm great demons when they were alive. The demon race's bodies were extremely strong. After death, their corpses could reach the 6th realm through a secret technique. If the White Emperor's corpse received the original memories, his own corpse would be able to reach the 8th realm in a short period of time. He would also have 2 7th realm and 8 6th realm subordinates under him. His strength would even surpass the various Dao sections. No one knew where the White Emperor demonic corpse had run off to. Ever since it escaped from the demonic emperor space, there had been no news of it. If he could capture it and bring it back, Li Mu would refine it even if he had to sell everything he had. You're right. Since he had worked undercover for Phantom Princess for a few months, he had developed a good habit of paying attention to details. Not long after, on the mountainside platform, the messenger of the sage sect looked at the list that was long enough to drag on the ground. He said in disbelief, "These are all?" Chen Shi nodded seriously and said, "All of them." The messenger of the sage sect pointed to the bottom part and said, "The rest is fine. These elixirs have nothing to do with refining corpses. What do you want them for?" Chen Shi shook his head and said, "Do you know as much about refining corpses as we do? These elixirs seem to have nothing to do with refining corpses, but their medicinal properties can complement each other and increase the success rate of refining corpses." Chen Shi talked for almost an hour and finally convinced the messenger of the sage sect. He left the demon corpse and flew away with a painful face. Chen Shi watched him go and then let out a long sigh of relief. He said with lingering fear, "If he had not left, I would not have been able to make it up anymore. On the mountainside platform, Li Mu looked at the middle-aged man's corpse on the platform. It looked similar to Phantom Princess. His expression was a little complicated. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.